When his beloved was diagnosed with kidney failure, Su Zhizhou insisted on being a donor for her. I secretly hid the compatibility test results. I'm sorry, but the tissue matching was unsuccessful. Overwhelmed by the agony of her illness and despair, his beloved took her own life. After we married, the first thing Su Zhizhou did was poison my water to damage my kidneys, take my life, and destroy my family. Mu Shu, this life is what you owe her. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the matching results came out. I sincerely handed the matching report to him with both hands. Su Zhizhou, the bond between you and Miss Gu is so profound it moves heaven and earth, a truly poignant tale. Why don't you just donate a kidney to her? I died before I even turned 30. It wasn't an accident or illness. Su Zhizhou simply didn't want me to live. Day after day, year after year, he kept lacing my drinking water with poison, slowly corroding my kidneys until they failed. Lying in the hospital bed, blood trickled from the corner of my mouth, staining the white sheets with blooming patterns of death. Yet Su Zhizhou still thought I wasn't dying fast enough. He pressed his foot firmly on my oxygen tube, determined to cut off every last breath of air. I was suffocating, gasping for air that wouldn't come. My jaw dropped as I protested indignantly. But why? My father was a founding member of the Su Corporation, and I grew up with him since childhood. From the beginning of our relationship until now, my parents have cared for his every need in daily life while steadily supporting and elevating his career at every step. Even after his father passed away and he assumed the role of chairman at Su Corporation, they followed his lead unquestioningly, keeping other disgruntled founding members in check. But after consolidating his position as chairman, he set a trap to oust my father from the board. When my father confronted him about it, he ended up dead in his office, yet the autopsy claimed it was a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. My mother was so devastated by the truth that she lost her sanity and had to be committed to a psychiatric hospital. As misfortunes never come alone, my brother was also framed by him for embezzlement and thrown behind bars. I'm your wife, why would you want to harm me? My eyes widened, fixed intently on him. Tears welled up in Su Zhizhou's eyes, dripping one by one onto my pillow. I could even hear the soft patter, yet it was me who was terminally ill. He looked like the one dying. It's you, you're the one who killed Yuan Yuan. He bared his fangs like a ravenous beast, looking as if he wanted to tear me limb from limb. Gu Yuan, Su Zhizhou's first love, his eternal white moonlight. It's been years since I last heard that name. Su Zhizhou never uttered that name again after her death. I thought he'd forgotten, but she'd always remained in his heart. It was your concealment of the matching results that drove her to despair and suicide. I wanted to laugh, but my throat rasped like a broken bellows, emitting a wretched, wheezing sound. I never wanted him to become a wreck, but in the end he actually accused me of being a murderer, blaming me for Gu Yuan's death. Su Zhizhou, I deeply regret covering up for you. A mouthful of blood gushed from my lips, splattering all over Su Zhizhou's face. It was the last scene I witnessed in this world. Shu, what's wrong? You look so pale. The metallic taste in my mouth was gone, and the excruciating pain throughout my body had vanished. Even my breathing had become smooth and effortless, and my vision cleared. Before me stretched a solemn white scene, with people coming and going. I've been reborn. Perhaps out of pity, fate has granted me a second chance at life. Not only was I reborn, but I've also been transported back to the very day Su Zhizhou and Gu Yuan's compatibility test results came out. At this moment, my brother had just returned from abroad with his medical doctorate, and my parents were still in good health, and I still haven't married Su Zhizhou. Did you hear? Yesterday, President Su had a huge fight with his parents over his first love. He insisted on breaking up with Mu Shu and spent the entire night with Gu Yuan. A few nurses nearby were chattering away, gossiping without any attempt to lower their voices, as if they were afraid I wouldn't hear. My best friend was so indignant on my behalf that she wanted to confront him. I stopped her from doing so. Su Zhizhou didn't just fall out with his parents over breaking up with me. While on a business trip, Su Zhizhou ran into his long-lost first love, the one who got away. Old flames reignited, and they simply couldn't resist each other. All these years, his first love has had a really tough time. Not only has she been overworking herself, but she also developed kidney failure, and now she relies on medication every day just to prolong her life. Memories of their past affection came flooding back, and Su Zhizhou's heart ached for her. He brought her back, not only deciding to break up with me but also insisting on getting tested to be a kidney donor for her. He's been arguing with his parents for days now. That scumbag is so ungrateful, insisting on being with someone who's not long for this world. A man like that isn't worth keeping anyway. My best friend spoke up for me indignantly. I held her hand and gave her a grateful smile. I knew it was her way of showing she cared about me. I woke up in my own room early this morning. In just a few hours, I had pieced together the whole story of my past and present. Shoo shoo, that scumbag is here. My best friend shook my hand to get my attention. I looked over and saw Su Zhizhou approaching in a custom-tailored gray casual suit, accompanied by a group of doctors and nurses. Su Zhizhou and I have known each other since we were children. We've always been incredibly close. When we were kids, if any boy tried to bully me, he'd rush in without a second thought and teach them a lesson. And whenever he got into some foolish trouble, I'd always cover for him without fail. Just when everyone thought I was the one Su Zhizhou loved most. He brought home his girlfriend, but their relationship met with fierce opposition from the Su family and ultimately fell apart. The girl left in humiliation and anger. Afterwards, he confessed his feelings to me, and everyone around us offered congratulations, assuming I would become Su Zhizhou's wife. Now, Su Zhizhou has brought his first love back into his life, gravely ill. Gu Yuan looked pale and fragile as she nestled weakly in Su Zhizhou's arms. She was always a beauty, but her illness gave her an ethereal, delicate allure. Even I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity for her. Su Zhizhou seemed to be in high spirits, with none of the hostility from yesterday's argument with his parents. He held Gu Yuan tightly in his arms, whispered something in her ear that made her purse her lips in a soft laugh and playfully swat at him. As soon as she turned her head and saw me, Gu Yuan's smile froze instantly, her star-bright eyes filled with alarm and unease. She walked toward me. Though it was only a few steps away, she moved exceedingly slowly. She suddenly collapsed before reaching me. Yuan Yuan. Su Zhizhou rushed over and tenderly helped Gu Yuan up, cradling her in his arms. The scene from my past life was replaying before my eyes. The genuine affection between Zuzizu and Gu Yuan remained unchanged, right down to the subtlest raised eyebrow. Though Zuzizu's feelings for Gu Yuan tugged at my heartstrings, I never held any resentment toward her. It's not that I'm set on marrying Zuzizu, but given our lifelong bond, I do hope he stays healthy in the years to come. For Zuzizu's sake, I pleaded earnestly. Zhizhou, I know you love her and feel guilty toward her, but you can't sacrifice your own health to make it up to her. If you give her your kidney, your health will truly deteriorate. And your parents would be absolutely heartbroken. Right now, Gu Yuan's condition hasn't deteriorated to the point where a kidney transplant is absolutely necessary. Let's wait a bit longer and keep searching for a suitable kidney donor. No matter the cost, we'll make it work. But my words failed to bring Su Zhizhou back to his senses. Left with no other choice, I secretly hid the matching report and lied. I'm sorry, but the match wasn't successful. But the consequence of this action was preserving Su Zhizhou's health at the cost of my own family's destruction. Plop, just like in our previous life, she dropped to her knees right before me in front of everyone. But this time, I didn't soften and help her up. Instead, I remained unmoved by her pleas, coldly watching her next move. Shoo shoo, there are so many people watching. My best friend, worried I might face criticism, whispered a reminder to me. I gave my friend's hand a reassuring pat, signaling her to keep calm. Miss Xia, Zhizhou and I are deeply in love. Please give us your blessing. I'm the one who wronged you. If you're upset, direct your anger at me, not Zhizhou. Yuan, get up. You don't need to beg her like this. I'm the one who loves you. I'm the one breaking up with her. Pity for Gu Yuan and anger at my indifference flickered across Su Zhizhou's face in rapid succession. For the first time, I had to admit his expression was truly hideous. Su Zhizhou hauled Gu Yuan to her feet with unyielding force. When her trouser leg was rolled up, mere seconds had passed, yet her knee had already turned a mottled purple. A chorus of hushed whispers rippled through the surrounding crowd. Miss Xia truly has a heart of stone. No wonder President Su dislikes her. I turned a deaf ear, continuing to watch Gu Yuan's performance with detached coldness, clenching her jaw. Gu Yuan dropped to her knees before me once again with a heavy thud. Tears streamed down my face even more fiercely. Feeling a bit weary, I settled into the nearby plush seat. I wanted to see just how long Gu Yuan could keep up this act. I missed it in my past life, but this time I'm going to watch every moment closely. This whole situation was nothing but a show orchestrated and performed by Gu Yuan herself. Even after waking up in this life, I still carry a lingering regret about Gu Yuan's suicide in our previous existence. But just an hour ago, when I came to the hospital ahead of time to collect Su Zhizhou and Gu Yuan's compatibility test results, I accidentally overheard Gu Yuan speaking with a doctor. The doctor was tall and slender, standing with his back to me so I couldn't see his face. I only heard Gu Yuan plead, "Please help me, just this once, will you, whatever you do, don't let them find out I'm not actually sick, or all this effort will have been for nothing." I had no other choice. The Su family was completely against my marriage to Su Zhizhou. If I hadn't orchestrated that chance encounter to make him feel guilty, there's no way I could have married him. I can't bear the thought of going back to those days of scraping by. My one and only dream in life is to marry into wealth and finally earn the respect of everyone who ever looked down on me. Please, I'm begging you, just help me one more time. I never would have guessed that a girl who seemed so innocent on the surface could be so cunning and calculating. She played every single one of us for fools. It would be such a waste if she didn't become an actress. What is it about Gu Yuan that made Su Zhizhou so infatuated with her, even to the point of defying his own parents? I was there when Su Zhizhou brought Gu Yuan back to the Su family. Since I was a child, you've always told me what not to do. But you never once asked me what I truly wanted. You're always telling me to be rational, to look at the whole picture, and to come up with practical solutions. But I'm human, not a robot. I have feelings. Only Yuan never forces me to do things I don't want to do, and she never lectures me with long-winded arguments. When I'm with her, I can freely do things exactly as I please. Being with her made me truly understand the meaning of freedom, joy, and ease. I've also given serious thought to what Su Zhizhou said. From the moment he was born, Su Zhizhou was destined to become the successor of the Su group. That's why the education and training he received since childhood were exceptionally rigorous, making him largely impervious to external temptations. As the successor to the Su Corporation, his every word and action represents the company. There are times when he has to conceal his true feelings and put on a mask. But has it ever occurred to him that Gu Yuan might be wearing a mask of her own when she's with him, with an agenda in mind? One must cater to the other's preferences. Once the goal is achieved, this mask will be torn off and replaced with another. "Mushu, you've gone too far." Su Zhizhou finally couldn't take it anymore and yelled out loud. Gu Yuan looked at me with tear-streaked cheeks, sobbing uncontrollably. "Miss Mu, I'm begging you to let me and Zhizhou be together. I truly can't go on living without Zhizhou." Whispers once again rippled through the crowd. The vulnerable always garner more sympathy. I was clearly the one who got hurt, the one whose feelings were trampled on, yet somehow I ended up being made out as the unreasonable one. Now I'm cast as the villain who ruined their relationship. I just stayed silent, sitting there scrolling through my phone. I'm curious to see just how far Gu Yuan will go. Suddenly, Gu Yuan rushed toward the windowsill. Intent on jumping to her death, chaos erupted as everyone scrambled to stop her. At that moment, I was genuinely shocked. After holding Gu Yuan in his arms to comfort her for a long while, Su Zhizhou stormed toward me with menacing intensity. The phone was snatched from my hand. Crack! Su Zhizhou slammed my phone violently onto the ground, shattering it to pieces. "Mushu, we grew up together, and I've always seen you as such a thoughtful and kind-hearted girl. I've always considered you my own little sister, but I never imagined you could be so cold-hearted and cruel." Su Zhizhou's words instantly chilled me to the bone. "Little sister, how ridiculous." Just because of those two words, our relationship was severed completely and cleanly. Does this count as a clean break? I studied Gu Yuan with a critical gaze, taking in his half-dead appearance. In my previous life, Gu Yuan took his own life on the very day I announced the compatibility results between Su Zhizhou and him. He jumped from the building, his blood and brains spattered across the ground. Rumors at the time claimed that Gu Yuan had killed himself out of despair, unable to endure the torment of his illness any longer. After Gu Yuan's death, Su Zhizhou remained silent for a long while. I thought he would sink into despair, unable to face reality, but to my surprise, he proposed to me the very next day. So this is all his feelings for Gu Yuan amounted to, I thought. Men are always fickle in matters of the heart. Looking back, his rush to marry me was nothing but a ploy to quickly eliminate me and avenge his beloved woman. It's always been Yuan I wanted to marry. If you're upset, take it out on me. There's no need to harass her like this. I really didn't want to waste any more breath arguing with Su Zhizhou here. Is Uncle Su upstairs? Su Zhizhou froze. What are you trying to do? This private hospital has investment from the Su group, and today marks its 20th anniversary. Not only is Uncle Su here, but I believe the entire senior management of the Su group is present, including my own father. I stood up and headed straight for the upper floor. Su Zhizhou stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Let me make this clear. Pleading with my father won't do you any good. I am determined to marry Yuan, and nothing anyone says will change my mind. I sneered, Su Zhizhou, you'll certainly get what you wish for. Perhaps my smile was too chilling, because Su Zhizhou swallowed the rest of his words and froze in place. I pushed the door open and stepped in. The conference room was quiet and solemn. My sudden entrance drew the attention of all the senior executives. My father's face also showed a hint of displeasure. He stood up and scolded me, Mushu, you're being so inconsiderate. Su Guangping smiled and gestured for my father to take a seat. He had always been kind and gentle with me. Shu, what's wrong? You seem so flustered. I bowed deeply to him. Uncle Su, you once said it takes 500 glances in a past life just to earn a passing encounter in this one. Su Zhizhou and Miss Gu are deeply devoted to each other. Their mutual affection so profound it moves the heavens. A love story both heartbreaking and inspiring. I simply cannot bear to stand in their way. I humbly ask for your blessing to end my relationship with Su Zhizhou, so their love may be fulfilled. I turned back to face Su Zhizhou, pulled out the test report, and handed it to him with both hands. Su Zhizhou, congratulations, the match is successful. You can donate a kidney to Miss Gu. Su Zhizhou had secretly arranged for someone to conduct the compatibility test behind everyone's backs. Su Guangping had no idea at all. Su Guangping snatched the teacup from the table and hurled it at Su Zhizhou. The teacup grazed Su Zhizhou's forehead, leaving a trail of blood. You insolent brat, who gave you permission to go for the matching test without telling me? Within hours, the news that Su Group CEO Su Zhizhou succeeded in matching tests for his beloved, prompting his fiancée Mu Shu to angrily call off their engagement, spread like wildfire across the internet. The whole situation with Su Zhizhou wanting to break up with me for his white Moonlight was already causing quite a stir. Now that I've initiated the breakup myself, combined with the bombshell news of Su Zhizhou's successful match for his white Moonlight, it's really pushed the public opinion frenzy to its peak. Online, some are praising Su Zhizhou for being deeply loyal and self-sacrificing in trying to save someone, while others are slamming Su Zhizhou and Gu Yuan for their shameless affair. Of course, there were also those who scolded me, saying I knew full well that Su Zhizhou had a white Moonlight yet insisted on marrying him, only to end up with nothing but a mess. Some even went as far as taking their partners to the hospital to check if their kidneys were a match. How could you be so willful? Dad was so angry he was glaring at me with his beard bristling. I retorted, this is my marriage. Why can't I bring up ending it if that's what I want? Do you think this marriage is only about you? Don't you realize your marriage affects our entire family and the Su family? I laughed bitterly. So what you're saying, Dad, is that I'm just a tool for you to maintain relationships? Hearing my challenge, my father's tone softened. That's not what your father meant. By publicly disclosing the matching results without any discretion, you've completely disregarded the Su family's dignity. And what about our own family's reputation? You're coming with me to apologize to the Su family tomorrow. I'm not going. I refuse. Dad, you didn't see how Su Zhizhou and Gu Yuan humiliated and pressured me in front of everyone. If you're afraid of offending the Su family, then go by yourself. You, Dad pointed his finger at me and said, with that stubborn temper of yours, I wonder who'd ever dare marry you. I retorted defiantly, there are people who appreciate someone with my temperament. My father turned and stormed off in a huff. Just then, Su Zhizhou's call came through. Mu Shu, you deliberately announced the matching results in front of all those people, didn't you? I said sarcastically. Su Zhizhou, weren't you always clamoring to donate a kidney to Gu Yuan? You got your wish. What a wonderful thing. Why does your voice sound so unhappy? Have you considered the consequences? What consequences? I only know that saving a life is a greater virtue than building a 7-story pagoda. Su Zhizhou, I'm trying to help you. Su Zhizhou fell silent, leaving only the sound of his ragged breathing through the phone. The call was cut off. I let out a cold laugh. Before the matching results came out, Su Zhizhou could freely parade his devotion to Gu Yuan, ready to lay down his life and shed his blood for the woman he loved. Once the compatibility results came out, it was a done deal. Su Zhizhou was caught between a rock and a hard place. Anyone would hesitate even if it meant cutting a piece of flesh from their own body. Remembering how Su Zhizhou's vicious retaliation in my past life was all because I hid the compatibility results makes my blood boil with rage. Hypocrite. Suddenly, another call came through. There was no caller ID, but that number was already burned into my memory. In the cafe. The man across from me elegantly lifted his cup and took a sip of coffee, seeing me simply sitting there. His thin lips parted slightly. Is the coffee not to your liking, Miss Mu? I shook my head. I'm allergic to coffee. The man smiled apologetically. My apologies for the oversight. I studied the man across from me carefully. His smile bore a faint resemblance to Su Zhizhou's in the eyes and brows, but only slightly. Compared to Su Zhizhou's flamboyance, this man seemed more reserved and refined. I've seen the news online too, Miss Mu. You really are. He paused, as if searching for the right word. Unconstrained, Mr. Su is also a man of free spirit, otherwise he wouldn't have contacted me so quickly. Just then, the server brought over a dessert, bitter melon milk pudding. I ordered this especially for you, Mr. Su. Go on, give it a try. Is there a special meaning behind it? Bitter first, then sweet. Hardship gives way to bliss. The man chuckled softly and extended his hand toward me. Allow me to introduce myself properly. I'm Su Yanqing. I clasped his slender, well-defined hand in return. Mu Shu. Everyone knew Su Guangping and his wife were the picture of marital bliss, but few were aware he had remarried. Su Guangping's first wife stood by him through humble beginnings, managing their household while he built his career. But as soon as Su Guangping established the Su Group and gained some wealth, he grew restless and began an affair with his young, attractive secretary, casting aside the wife who had shared his hardships. This secretary later became the mother of Su Zhizhou, the wronged first wife. In an act of fierce defiance, took her own life by hanging in Su Guangping's office with a length of white cloth. They left behind Su Yanqing, who was only 6 years old at the time. Later, Su Guangping married his secretary and, claiming that seeing his eldest son reminded him of his late wife and filled him with guilt, exiled Su Yanqing abroad. This was something my mother secretly told me, a secret permanently sealed within the Su Corporation. No one knows except the founding members. In his previous life, Su Yanqing returned to China and built his own company from the ground up. His business flourished, earning him a spot on the rich list multiple times. Had he taken over the Su Corporation, he might have propelled it to even greater heights. Within days, the online controversy was quashed by the Su Corporation's PR team. Touted as the world's most powerful public relations force, online spectators also believe that no matter how much Su Zhizhou and I quarrel, we'd never actually break up. How could decades of friendship and shared interests between the Su and Mu families be destroyed over some trivial first love? Even the kidney donation matter quietly faded away without any further developments, one unwilling to donate through surgery, the other afraid to receive it. What an absolute farce. It would be a shame to let such an entertaining show end prematurely. The Su Group operates a media company primarily focused on producing short videos and mini-dramas. Compared to other subsidiaries, this company operates on a much smaller scale. Though nominally under Su Zhizhou's oversight, he rarely involves himself in its affairs, and Su Guangping doesn't even consider it worth his attention. Consequently, even the appointment of a new director for this company was approved by Su Zhizhou with little more than a cursory glance. In just a few days, a wave of short dramas has suddenly flooded the internet. A devoted boyfriend, heartbroken over his ailing white moonlight, unattainable love, insists on breaking up with his childhood sweetheart to marry his true love, vowing to stand by her through sickness and health. A deeply moving tale. Stories of lovesick boyfriends donating kidneys, livers, and lungs for their white moonlight are popping up everywhere, each more outrageous than the last. The marketing blitz has been absolutely everywhere, taking over all the major platforms. One comment even wrote, "If it weren't for you in this lifetime, why worry about dark hair matching white robes? To have such a boyfriend would leave no regrets in this life." Produced by the Su Group, coinciding with the recent drama where Su Zhizhou broke up with me to donate a kidney to his white moonlight. No one would doubt its authenticity, only believing that Su Zhizhou deliberately orchestrated it to stir up public opinion and force his parents to compromise. Paparazzi even caught Su Zhizhou jetting off abroad for a vacation with his white moonlight. The two holed up in a villa overseas for 3 straight days without stepping out once, which pretty much confirmed the rumors. This pushed the Su family into a corner with no way out. My dad came home and told me that Su Guangping was completely disillusioned with his son. My father sighed and said, "Shu, if you want to break up, then break up. I don't want a son-in-law who's so arrogant and clueless either." I felt a secret thrill and immediately sent Su Yanqing a message. "Time for you to step into the spotlight." News of the official breakup between Su Group's CEO Su Zhizhou and his childhood sweetheart Mu Shu once again sparked heated discussions online. The plot twists and turns, and the spectators are thoroughly entertained by the drama. Many people are enjoying my misfortune, some even calling me a discarded wife. There's also widespread speculation that the Mu and Su families, with their decades-long friendship, hold significant stakes. Mu's share in Su Corporation is second only to Su Guangping himself. Could this incident turn the two families into enemies? Just as everyone was speculating about how things would unfold. One person's arrival changed the game. Word has it that the Su family's eldest son, who moved abroad years ago, has returned and is about to land at the airport. The news sent shockwaves through everyone. So it turns out the Su family had another eldest son all along. It turns out Su Zhizhou wasn't an only child. Paparazzi caught wind of the news and flocked to the airport, hoping to capture exclusive shots. The internet was flooded with photos and videos of Su Yanqing's return to the country. In the footage, Su Yanqing sported a wolf-cut hairstyle and frameless glasses, with rosy cheeks and red lips that made him look like an aristocratic young master straight out of a painting. Dressed in a sharp black suit, he carried himself with an upright and steady posture, every inch the elite professional. Even my father, who places immense importance on appearances and saving face, couldn't help but marvel. That boy left all those years ago in such a wretched and pitiful state. To see him now, over 20 years later, so remarkably distinguished, he's certainly far more pleasing to the eye than that dullard Su Zhizhou. I secretly sent a message to Su Yanqing. Why are you dressed so flashy? Didn't you say your dad's all about looks? I'm doing this to make you look good. I didn't respond. After all these years apart, Su Guangping seemed to have forgotten he even had a son. I was so stunned to see him that I was left speechless. The older you get, the more you dwell on the past. Su Guangping felt increasingly guilty about this son who had suddenly appeared. Dad, I heard that little brother broke up with Mushu. To be perfectly honest, I once met Mushu abroad and was instantly smitten, but when I learned she was my brother's girlfriend, I never dared to voice my feelings, keeping them locked away in my heart. Now that my brother and Mushu have broken up, I see no reason to hide it any longer. That evening, the three of us had dinner with Su Guangping and his son. In that exchanged glance between Su Yanqing and me, our relationship was silently confirmed. The first step went off without a hitch. A huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. But the moment I got home that evening, Su Zhizhou showed up at my door. I told the housekeeper to lock the main gate, turn off the porch light, and line the entrance with glue traps. It was dark, and Su Zhizhou's poor eyesight led him to step right into a glue trap. He stood at the door, yelling, Mushu, have you no shame? First, you wait on the younger brother, and now the older one. Aren't you disgusted with yourself? Aren't you afraid of becoming a laughingstock? Let me tell you, Su Yanqing has nothing. He's a penniless loser, and you'll regret this. I swung the door open, and a basin of bathwater meant for the dog splashed all over him. Su Zhizhou, did you learn this shrewish street screeching act from your mother? Whether Su Yanqing gets to stay is your father's call. Instead of throwing a tantrum here, you'd be better off rushing home to sweet-talk your dad, though, with your mother's looks long faded, I doubt even she could charm him now. My mom told me that when Su Zhizhou's mother was trying to force her way into the family as the other woman, she stood in the courtyard and called Su Yanqing's mother a washed-up old hag just like this. Now it's my turn as the future daughter-in-law to give her a taste of her own medicine. Back in the room, I was so furious that I threw the basin down. Su Yanqing sent a message. Have you really been taking care of Su Zhizhou? Me? I rushed to the balcony and looked down from the second floor. Su Zhizhou had already left, but a car was still parked nearby with its headlights on. Is this guy hung up on female virginity or something? A shiver ran through my entire body. You heard everything. Yeah, what do you want to do? Terminate the contract? Not really. Then why are you asking? Don't tell me you're a virgin. Su Yanqing's status showed typing. For a long time, but not a single word came through. No way. I'm stunned. A man in his 30s must have had at least one relationship by now. Are you really a virgin? After a long pause, he finally replied, I don't mind. I'm just genuinely curious. I'm curious too. Why don't you come up so we can test that theory? Let's see if you're really a virgin. Su Yanqing fell silent again, and the car downstairs drove off without another word. For lasting partnerships, you must first secure your partner's trust. After much deliberation, I ended up sending Su Yanqing a message. Don't listen to Su Zhizhou's nonsense. Things between him and I haven't progressed that far yet. Su Yanqing replied quickly. Got it. Still such an adorable little bear. Secretly cheeky. The Su Group is looking to expand into overseas markets. Su Zhizhou volunteered to test the waters. He brought Gu Yuan along, claiming that the superior medical facilities abroad would benefit her condition. Yet within just 2 months, they returned in defeat. In his previous life, His success was entirely due to my father's guidance and the help from my brother's overseas classmates. In this life, my father and brother naturally can't be bothered with him. The billions invested all went down the drain. Meanwhile, Su Yanqing took over an investment company under the Su Group that was on the verge of bankruptcy. In just 2 months, he managed to turn the company around and even turned a modest profit. With Su Yanqing as the older brother, Su Zhizhou's incompetence became even more apparent. Su Guangping was furious, berating him for his lack of progress, and other executives gradually lost faith in him. The stage is set, now it's time to expose Gu Yuan. I'd love to see the look on Su Zhizhou's face when he finds out Gu Yuan was never actually sick and had been deceiving him all along. Unfortunately, before I could make a move, Gu Yuan slipped up and revealed her own deception. Su Zhizhou had been enduring constant pressure from Su Yanqing and rejection from Su Guangping for days, leaving him utterly miserable. It had been a long time since I last visited Gu Yuan. Bored and restless in the villa, Gu Yuan sneaked out to find Su Zhizhou on her own. Su Zhizhou was already agitated, and having Gu Yuan chattering incessantly beside him didn't help. Could you keep it down? This is my workplace, not your chatting spot. What are you even doing here? Gu Yuan's almond-shaped eyes welled up with tears, looking utterly pitiful. It's my fault for being useless and not having a good family background to support you. I've caused you to be looked down upon by your father. This is all my mistake. I'll leave now so I won't be a burden to you anymore. With that, she ran out. Frustrated, Su Zhizhou slammed the documents on the desk and chased after her. Yuan, a proper routine requires going all the way. The elevator still hadn't arrived, so Gu Yuan took the stairs to make Su Zhizhou chase after her. Then some clueless employee came rushing down the stairs in a frantic hurry, arms full of documents, and accidentally knocked Gu Yuan, who was waiting at the landing for Su Zhizhou to catch up, right down the stairs. Ah! Gu Yuan tumbled down the stairs, hit her head against the wall, and lost consciousness. The 120 ambulance rushed Gu Yuan directly to the nearest public hospital. Doctor, she has kidney failure. Su Zhizhou urgently explained the situation to the doctor. After a thorough examination, the doctor concluded, she doesn't have kidney disease. Rumor has it that Su Zhizhou's face turned as purple as an eggplant. When Gu Yuan woke up, she knelt before Su Zhizhou again, pouring out her hardships over the years, her lingering attachment to him, and how she had been forced to resort to such a desperate measure. No one knows exactly what transpired between them afterward, but Gu Yuan was ultimately expelled from the villa. In my previous life, just before I died, Su Zhizhou said to me, my love for Yuan runs deep. I'd willingly trade years of my own life just to see her live long and healthy, but you drove her to her death. Well, now he doesn't have to sacrifice any years of his life, and Gu Yuan gets to live a long one, yet he's still unhappy. A few days later, Su Zhizhou officially announced his breakup with Gu Yuan on social media. The internet erupted into yet another wave of uproar. People have been joking that the Su Corporation's recent scandals are way more entertaining than celebrity gossip, a perfect mix of sweet and sour. That same day, Su Yanqing sent me a message. My dad's been hospitalized. After visiting Su Guangping, Yanqing and I had just stepped out of the hospital room, when we spotted Su Zhizhou trudging toward us from a distance, looking completely dejected. I have no idea what got into Su Yanqing or what strange obsession possessed him. Suddenly, he pulled me into an embrace and pressed his lips fiercely against mine. I was frozen in shock for a long moment before I even thought to resist. But with my arms and legs pinned by his grasp, struggling was utterly futile. Fortunately, Su Yanqing let go of me before too long. Just as I was about to speak, Su Yanqing bit down hard on my neck, leaving a clear teeth mark. I hissed in pain. Su Zhizhou pointed at me, shocked and heartbroken. Mu Shu, you too have no shame. Su Yanqing retorted with a smile. This is my fiancé, how could that possibly be shameful? And how do you explain sleeping with another woman while you were still with Shu Shu? Su Zhizhou flushed bright red at the direct accusation, stammering and unable to form a coherent response. Also, let me remind you, from now on, you don't get to call her Mu Shu, you'll address her as your sister-in-law, and stop fantasizing about your sister-in-law. It makes my skin crawl. With that, Su Yanqing took me by the arm and led me away. I glanced back at Su Zhizhou, head bowed at the hospital room door. He looked like a remorseful child who'd been caught misbehaving. Feeling sorry for him, Su Yanqing's voice carried a slight chill. Not at all. I'm just surprised someone as inexperienced as you is so skilled. There's more to me than just smooth talk. I didn't feel like speaking anymore. In our previous life, Su Guangping fell ill 2 years after Su Zhizhou and I got married. He passed away from a sudden cerebral infarction during his illness. He didn't have time to draft a will. After Su Guangping's death, Su Zhizhou's mother voluntarily waived her inheritance rights, leaving everything to Su Zhizhou. Back then, Su Yanqing probably still held a grudge against his father and didn't come to fight for the family fortune. With my father's support on top of that, Su Zhizhou naturally became the chairman, in this lifetime. Perhaps because of Su Zhizhou's constant stirring up of trouble, Su Guangping's illness seems to have come a bit earlier. If anything were to happen to Su Guangping, the ones to inherit the family fortune would be Su Zhizhou, his mother, and Su Yanqing. The three of them, Su Zhizhou and his mother, each originally held 10% of the shares. Su Guangping held 40% of the shares. If Su Guangping died without a will, aside from the 20% that Su Zhizhou's mother was originally entitled to split equally, the remaining 20% would be inherited by all three of them. This would mean Su Zhizhou and his mother would end up with over half the shares, which would put Su Yanqing at a significant disadvantage. Su Yanqing had long planted a mole by Su Zhizhou's side. Su Zhizhou and his mother have already started making moves. Not only are they currying favor with the company's old guard, but Su Zhizhou's mother is also constantly at Su Guangping's bedside, posing as his wife. It wouldn't be beyond them to forge a will or secretly transfer shares while Su Guangping remains unconscious. Looks like I need to make plans sooner rather than later. I just never expected Gu Yuan to come looking for me. Thump, she was kneeling before me again. Is Miss Gu really that fond of kneeling? I really can't stand the sight of her. Miss Mu, I'm begging you, won't you please help me? I truly can't bear to lose Zhizhou. I'd be willing to do anything for you, even if it means working myself to the bone. Pfft, I couldn't help but laugh. I'm afraid you've come to the wrong person, Miss Gu. I have no connection to Su Zhizhou anymore. What he does is none of my concern. Gu Yuan refused to give up. Miss Mu, I know Zhizhou values your opinion above all others. If you talk to him, he'll surely listen. That statement sounds so ironic. If Su Zhizhou had actually listened to me, I wouldn't have been reborn in this life. I stood up and advised her gently. Miss Gu, it would be better for you to be more realistic and not place too much hope in this relationship. I was about to leave when Gu Yuan clung to my leg, sobbing. Miss Mu, please help me. I really can't lose Zhizhou. I was getting fed up and stopped being polite with her. Are you afraid of losing Su Zhizhou, or just afraid of losing your chance to be a wealthy socialite? Gu Yuan's true intentions were laid bare by my blunt remark. Leaving her visibly embarrassed, I shook her off. Please leave, Miss Gu, I can't help you, and I wouldn't help you even if I could. The fact that I'm not holding our past grievances against her is the greatest kindness I can offer. Gu Yuan, flushed with anger, stood up and snapped. Mu Shu, who do you think you are? If you weren't the Mu family's daughter, do you really think Su Zhizhou would even glance your way? So you just got lucky with your birth. Big deal, let me tell you. Trust fund babies like you who don't work and only spend money are just parasites, destined to loaf around and wait to die. Smack, I slapped her across the face. If you've lost your mind, I don't mind slapping some sense into you. Gu Yuan stared at me in disbelief. You hit me, I sneered. You already got on your knees for me. What's one more slap, you bitch? Gu Yuan lunged at me to start a fight, but the servants held her back. How dare you cause trouble in my own home? I waved my hand and had her dragged out and thrown out. Gu Yuan was still struggling. Mushu, a parasite like you will reap what you sow sooner or later. The shouting and cursing outside gradually died down. With a sense of foreboding, I pulled out my phone to call Su Yanqing and discuss our next move. In a flash of insight, a terrifying thought suddenly struck me. Could someone be trying to frame me by killing Gu Yuan, in my previous life? Gu Yuan jumped to her death right after I announced the matching results. The moment I finished announcing the results, Gu Yuan died. That way everyone would think Gu Yuan couldn't face the truth and took her own life, that I drove her to suicide. Even Su Zhizhou thinks so. What a vicious scheme. When Gu Yuan leaves my place this time, will they silence her too and pin it on me? Then spread rumors that she took her own life out of humiliation from my mistreatment. With that thought, I immediately got to my feet. I had just stepped outside when I ran right into Su Zhizhou, who was about to knock on the door. Shu Shu, you're finally willing to see me. Su Zhizhou's face lit up with joy. I simply had no time for him and pushed him away. He caught up and stopped me. Where are you going? I snapped impatiently. Su Zhizhou, I'm your sister-in-law now. Where I go is none of your business. I'm warning you, if you keep pestering me, you'll regret it. Su Zhizhou kept blocking my path. What sister-in-law? I don't acknowledge her, Shu. I was wrong. I truly understand my mistake this time. It was Gu Yuan who deceived me. She feigned illness to manipulate my sympathy and pity. I've already broken up with her. Please forgive me. We've known each other since we were kids. How can our over 20 years of friendship mean less to you than a few months with Su Yanqing? If Su Zhizhou comes with me, he might actually be able to help. This time we have to catch that murderer. I'm going to find out who it is. Get in the car. You're coming with me. Stop. By the time Su Zhizhou and I reached the hospital rooftop, Gu Yuan was already leaning halfway over the edge, about to be pushed off. The man with his back to me slowly straightened up upon hearing my voice. Then he turned around. It's you. Li Yang looked at me with a sinister smile. Mu Shu, we meet again. Li Yang was originally my brother's classmate. He was morally corrupt, not only harassing female classmates but even secretly taking their nude photos and selling them around. While visiting my brother for a few days, I happened to witness him sexually harassing a fellow student. Without hesitation, I testified in court, which led to his expulsion from school and subsequent deportation. But how could he be here? Gu Yuan insisted he was her primary physician, saying he'd been overseeing her case for years. She refused to consider switching doctors, so I had him transferred to this hospital to serve as Gu Yuan's attending physician. Su Zhizhou explained from beside them. No wonder no one caught on that Gu Yuan was faking her illness all this time. She's reaping what she sowed. Gu Yuan's eyes lit up at the sight of Su Zhizhou, and she cried out, "Help me, save me, Zhizhou, come quick and save me." But the look of disgust on Su Zhizhou's face seemed to wish she would just drop dead already. Li Yang, are you really going to silence an innocent person just to get back at me? Li Yang sneered coldly. Mu Shu, I'm doing you a favor. This bitch ruined your relationship. Doesn't she deserve to die? If I just give her a hard shove, she'll be gone for good. The worst you'll get is some criticism. Li Yang, if she dies, you'll face the death penalty too. Is it really worth it? Li Yang suddenly became frenzied, his eyes burning crimson as if possessed. Absolutely worth it. Do you have any idea how much I've sacrificed to study abroad? People like you, born with everything handed to you, could never understand our struggles. You're the one who ruined everything for me. I'd gladly die if it means making your life miserable. He certainly succeeded. My death in the previous life was utterly gruesome. With his violent shoves, Gu Yuan was pushed further down, screaming in sheer terror. Li Yang, the police are on their way. There's still time to stop this. No sooner had the words been spoken than police sirens wailed from the street below. Enraged, Li Yang grabbed Gu Yan by the legs and swung her toward the edge. I threw myself forward without a second thought. Gu Yan was shoved over the ledge as a blade came flashing toward me. I can't recall the chaos of that moment, but I'll never forget Su Zhizhou's face drenched in blood, exactly like the blood I'd spat across his face in our previous life. In the ICU, Su Zhizhou lay frail on the hospital bed, tethered to medical monitors, mirroring my own state from our past life. At the sound, his eyes slowly fluttered open. Shu, he was calling for me. I walked over, and the moment our eyes met, I was startled. His once defiant gaze had suddenly become more composed, bearing the marks of time. I knew he had returned as well. I finally get to see you again. You must really hate me, don't you? His voice was faint and weak. I remained silent. Only now do I realize how foolish and how much of a failure I've been. I was played for a fool and lost a wonderful woman like you. Can you ever forgive me? I shook my head. Su Zhizhou, do you know what I resented most about you in our past life? What was it? During our 5 years of marriage, I had 5 miscarriages. My health kept deteriorating. Every time I saw how happy you looked playing with other people's children, I was filled with guilt. It wasn't until the very end that I discovered you were the one who killed our child. It was the poison you put in my water, day after day. Suddenly, his eyes widened, and he began gasping for air. I stomped on that oxygen tube with all my might, just as he had crushed me in our previous life. Su Zhizhou, whether in this life or the last, what's past is past. All grudges and attachments fade away the moment life ceases to exist. He opened his mouth with difficulty and said, Shu. Since fate has brought me back too, if I survive this, will there still be a chance for us? I shook my head. Su Zhizhou, you're not going to make it. The blade had pierced his kidney, and the doctors were powerless to save him. The only reason I brought you back is because we still have unfinished business between us. I glanced at the medical equipment screen. It's time you returned this life to me. Su Zhizhou died on the anniversary of my death. Just an eye for an eye, that's all. Within days, Su Guangping succumbed to the shock and passed away. He left a will bequeathing all 40% of his shares to Su Yanqing. With my father's support, Su Yanqing officially became the new chairman of the Su Group. Su Zhizhou's mother, having lost her son and failed to inherit any assets, grew increasingly paranoid. She began to question the authenticity of the will. In the end, Su Yanqing made the decision to have her committed to a psychiatric hospital. I was standing in the courtyard when Su Yanqing returned. "What are you doing out here?" I tilted my head back, eyes closed, facing the sun, getting some sun, not worried about a tan. I ignored him. "Honestly, I've always wondered how that dagger ended up in Su Zhizhou's body." Su Yanqing looked at me thoughtfully. "When the dagger came at me, of course I had to dodge it. Didn't you know Su Zhizhou was right behind me?" "Of course I knew. But I couldn't just stand there and let the dagger stab me to death." Su Yanqing nodded with a smile. "That makes sense." Su Yanqing, I mean, let's call off our engagement." Su Yanqing was momentarily taken aback, but remained silent. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Shushu, It was the first time he had ever called me by my pet name. I turned to look at him. The sunlight fell on him, radiating a cozy warmth. He wrapped his arms around me, holding me close to his chest. "I want to be your sunshine." In our first year of marriage, we were blessed with a son. By our third year of marriage, we welcomed a daughter into our lives. My judgment proved right. Su Corporation reached unprecedented heights under Su Yanqing's leadership. Naturally, he began attracting flocks of admirers vying for his attention, yet he could still walk through the garden without a single petal clinging to him. I sometimes teased him. "When are you planning to trade in the wife?" Tucking me in, he said with a smile, "I can't let my child end up like me." It seems we only learn to cherish things after experiencing loss. For the rest of my life, I only wish to savor the hues of earthly life at leisure, and calmly watch the passage of time through all things. The end. Story 2. Before being pushed off the cliff by Zhou Lin, he told me a secret. All the bullet comments I saw were deliberately fabricated by him for me. It was precisely because I believed the nonsense in those bullet comments that I gave up my fiancé, who was a good match for me in terms of social status, and instead threw myself into Zhou Lin's arms. In the end, he drained my family fortune and pushed me off the cliff. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the wealthy family's dinner party where I had been drugged. The familiar bullet comments appeared again. The female lead, "Don't you ever go looking for your fiancé. That scumbag is having a wild time with a young model. Why not take a look at Zhou Lin behind you? Although he is just a waiter now, he will become the richest man in the country in the future and spoil you rotten." I turned around and met Zhou Lin's affectionate gaze. "In this life, I will make every single bullet comment become his death knell." It was so hot. My body felt as if it was being roasted over a fire. I leaned against the wall and moved forward feebly with my hands and feet. It was not until the familiar bullet comments floated past my eyes that I suddenly woke up. I had actually gone back to the day when I was drugged at the party. "Miss Wen, are you okay?" A concerned male voice rang in my ear, but it made me tremble all over in fright. I turned my head and met those familiar eyes, gentle, worried, as if filled with endless affection. It was Zhou Lin. In an instant, boundless hatred welled up like magma. I had to use all my strength to restrain the urge to strangle him to death. In my previous life, it was precisely because I believed those bullet comments that I gave up my fiancé, who was a good match for me in terms of social status, and threw myself into the arms of Zhou Lin, who was still a waiter at that time. In the end, he drained my family fortune and pushed me off the cliff. It was not until just before I died that Zhou Lin stepped on my head and looked down at me condescendingly, saying, "Didn't you expect it? Those bullet comments were all deliberately fabricated by me for you to see. Women are so easy to deceive. With just a few bullet comments, you really thought you were the female lead in a novel. You're so stupid, you deserve to be killed by me." He sneered sinisterly and suddenly kicked me off the cliff with a single stomp. All that was left in my ears was the howling wind, and the crisp sound of bones breaking. "Miss Wen, you don't look well. Let me help you to the lounge." "Okay." Zhou Lin's voice slithered into my eardrums like a snake hissing, instantly pulling me back to reality. There was carefully feigned concern surging in his eyes, but this time, I could clearly see the calculating look hidden deep within. He was waiting for me to be in a state of delirium and let him have his way with me. "Miss Wen, your body is so hot, how about, let me help you?" His breath brushed against my ear, and his voice was low and slow, as if deliberately trying to awaken the drug's effect in my body. the bullet comments appeared in a timely manner. Female lead, don't resist, this is fate, Zhou Lin will treat you very well, believe me, you two are a perfect match, accept him quickly. Zhou Lin is really good in bed and will definitely make you feel ecstatic. My fingernails dug deep into the palm of my hand. In my previous life, it was these bewitching bullet comments that made me fall into the trap step by step, the heat in my body and the coldness in my heart intertwined, making me shiver all over. But Zhou Lin took this as my invitation for sex and became even bolder. His fingertips gently caressed, moving down along my collarbone and was about to reach into the neckline of my dress. Just then, I tore off the silver hairpin that held up my coiled hair, and stabbed it hard into his arm. Ah! Zhou Lin let out a scream and looked at me in disbelief. I got up and ran towards the main hall of the party, shouting at the top of my lungs, "Call the police, someone is molesting me." 2. While waiting for the police to arrive, Zhou Lin was pinned to the ground by the security guards and could hardly make a sound, but the bullet comments didn't stop for a moment. Oh my god, is the female lead crazy? This is the future richest man in the country, your fiancé is having an affair upstairs. But you're hurting the one who truly loves you, quickly tell the security guards to let him go, otherwise, you'll have to give your first night to that scumbag fiancé. Every word and sentence was pushing me to give up my fiancé, and offer myself to this waiter whom I didn't know at all. To be fair, Zhou Lin was quite good at bluffing people, but he seemed to have overlooked one thing. Could it be that I could only choose one of the two men? The doctor rushed over in a hurry and gave me an antidote injection. The cold injection pierced my skin, and the surging heat in my body finally subsided. In my previous life, I was bewitched by the bullet comments and gave myself to Zhou Lin under his coaxing, but this time, the will to survive and break the situation made me hold on until now. I lifted my eyes coldly and met Zhou Lin's slightly anxious gaze. Obviously, since the bullet comments hadn't worked yet, he was starting to lose his composure. I didn't molest her. Zhou Lin finally couldn't help but speak up in defense, his voice tinged with deliberate grievance. I just saw that Miss Wen wasn't feeling well and came forward to show my concern out of kindness. I didn't expect to be misunderstood. The bullet comments immediately cooperated and flooded the screen. With his looks, does he need to be a molester? It's women who throw themselves at him. The female lead is too sensitive, isn't she? Treating kindness as something worthless, I sneered and gave him a mocking look. Every pervert will defend themselves like this when caught in the act. If you want to explain it to the police. The sound of the police sirens approached from afar, and Zhou Lin's face visibly turned pale, just as the police were about to take him away. Wait a minute, a clear female voice cut through the commotion. 3. I turned around and saw a girl in a pure white dress walking quickly over. I knew this girl, her name was Lan. It was she who sponsored Zhou Lin, helping him to come out of the poor mountain village and get admitted to a prestigious university. I heard that when she went to the mountain village to donate supplies, she took a fancy to Zhou Lin at first sight. Since then, she had supported him all the way and cultivated him carefully. She not only covered Zhou Lin's tuition and living expenses but also paved the way for him, giving him the opportunity to mingle in the upper-class social circles. I once asked Zhou Lin what kind of relationship he had with Lan. Zhou Lin just said casually, "She's my sponsor and has been kind to me." I believed him at that time, but in my previous life, not long after I got together with Zhou Lin, this girl died in a car accident. At that time, I thought it was an accident. Now that I think about it, there's probably more to it than meets the eye. And Lan stood in front of Zhou Lin like a mother hen protecting her chicks, without any evidence. Can you just frame an innocent person with just your words? She turned to look at the police. I know Zhou Lin, he would never do such a thing. This silly girl was probably just like me in my previous life, whose mind had been bewitched by Zhou Lin's bullet comments. I looked at her angry expression with great interest and slowly took out my phone. Oh, is that so? On the phone screen, it clearly showed the scene of Zhou Lin acting inappropriately towards me in the lounge. Originally, I also wanted to find the footage of Zhou Lin drugging me, but unfortunately, he was cautious and managed to avoid the surveillance cameras, so I couldn't find the evidence of him drugging me. And Lan looked at the surveillance footage, her face as white as a sheet, but even so, she still bit her lip, as if she wanted to defend Zhou Lin. Fortunately, the police didn't give her the chance. Zhou Lin was soon taken away, and Lan followed, but those annoying bullet comments were still not giving up and were making a final struggle. It's all a misunderstanding, just a misunderstanding. Female lead, believe us. Zhou Lin just couldn't help himself for a moment. And that's all because he loves you so much. Are you really going to miss the one who truly loves you for the sake of a cheating man? If you don't believe it, go and take a look at box No. 1 on the upper floor of the banquet hall. Your fiancé probably just finished his affair. I raised an eyebrow. If the bullet comments hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten. In my previous life, it was in box No. 1 that I witnessed my fiancé's betrayal with my own eyes. From then on, I completely believed the bullet comments and had no more doubts. My fingertips unconsciously dug into my palm, and I lifted the hem of my dress and walked upstairs. This time, I wanted to see just how flawless the plot Jolene had arranged was. For, the box was in a mess, the messy clothes were scattered all over the floor, and the air was filled with the smell of alcohol and lust intertwined. GMO was holding the woman in his arms and was sound asleep. The bullet comments immediately flooded the screen like crazy. Look, this is your dear fiancé. Now do you believe that what we said is true? Only Jolene truly loves you. Go and find him quickly. I bit my lower lip so hard that I tasted blood. It was this scene in my previous life that made me completely believe the prophecies in the bullet comments and obey Jolene from then on. But this time, I strode closer and noticed Chimo's dilated pupils and the abnormal flush on his face. His fingers were twitching spasmodically around the woman's waist. This look was exactly the same as mine after I relieved the effect of the drug in my previous life. I understood in an instant. It seemed that Chimo had also been drugged. Luchi. Chimo woke up with a start. When he saw me, he pushed the woman in his arms away in a panic. He fumbled to wrap the quilt tightly around himself, his voice hoarse. Luchi, you have to believe me, I was drugged. Of course I believed him, because this was a common trick used by Jolene in my previous life. I was so stupid that I was blinded by anger and didn't notice these details at all. I know, I said calmly. But my fingernails dug deep into my palm. GMO obviously let out a sigh of relief, but the next second, let's cancel our engagement. What? He stared at me in disbelief. I'm the victim, but you did betray me, I sneered. Moreover, memories of my previous life flashed through my mind, how the Chi family had gradually nibbled away at the Wen family's business under the pretext of my faults, and how GMO had watched coldly and even added fuel to the fire. The bullet comments were still flickering nonstop. Female lead, baby, you've finally seen clearly. A man like GMO is not worth it at all. Only Jolene truly loves you. He has been waiting for you for so long. Do you have the heart to make him wait any longer? Think about it. If you had chosen Jolene just now, how happy you would be now. I clenched my fists. How ironic. In my previous life, I believed these lies and ended up dying a miserable death. In this life, I've seen through the truth, but I still have to step into this trap, because I know, only by making Jolene think that his plan has succeeded first can I make him reveal more flaws. I will accompany Jolene to play this game to the end. Luchi. GMO still wanted to explain. I simply left, letting him call out behind me. The moment I turned around, a tear rolled down my cheek. It wasn't for GMO, but for myself in my previous life who had been played with and killed. 5. I cancelled my engagement with GMO. This time, the Chi family was in the wrong and had to give up 8 percentage points of the profits as compensation. 8 percentage points. My father was so angry that he smashed the teacup. Is my daughter's marriage only worth that much? I held down his trembling hand and said in a calm voice, I lost my marriage, but I got the money. Isn't that more practical? I think it's quite good. Dad is just feeling sorry for you. My father sighed. Originally, I thought that if you married GMO, in the future he would take over the Chi and Wen companies, and you wouldn't have to worry about the rest of your life. But now, it's not only men who can take over the company. I interrupted him and said seriously, Dad, train me to be your successor. It's only when our own company is in the hands of our own family that we can feel at ease. My father's eyes lit up with surprise. Luchi, do you really mean it? I looked straight into his eyes and nodded solemnly. In the past, I didn't want to get involved in company affairs. I thought that as long as I found a capable man, I could live an easy life. My parents also indulged my temper. They said that they named me Luchi because they hoped that I could live happily without any worries, but the lessons of my previous life made me fully understand. No man can truly be my support. Only when I hold the interests firmly in my own hands can I feel at ease. Very good, very good. My father was so excited that his face was glowing. No problem, my dear daughter. I'll arrange for you to join the company tomorrow. I will teach you everything I know and do my best to train you. However, just a few days after I started working in the company, I ran into an unexpected person, the familiar figure, the hypocritical smile. Zhou Lin. He actually managed to sneak into the company so quickly, and he became an intern in the department I was in charge of. Along with his appearance, there were also those noisy bullet comments. Female lead, look how much Zhou Lin loves you. In order to see you every day, he gave up countless job offers from other companies. Every step he took out of the mountain village was to be worthy of you. How can you have the heart to let down such deep affection, with just a word from you? He would even give his life for you. Give his life. I curled my lips coldly. I don't need him to give me his life, I'll take it myself. Find out how Zhou Lin got out of the police station and how he got into the company. I tapped my fingertips on the table, and a surge of excited fighting spirit welled up in my heart. The secretary soon brought back the news. It was Lan. She not only bailed out Zhou Lin but also stuffed him into the Wen Group. The Yin family was also one of the shareholders of the Wen Group, although their shareholding was small and they didn't have much decision-making power, but it was still no problem to stuff an intern in. What's more, with Zhou Lin's background of graduating from a prestigious university and being about to graduate, he did meet the requirements. I suddenly thought of that night's party when Zhou Lin worked as a part-time waiter. This work-study opportunity was probably also given to him by Lan. Otherwise, with the strict management of that banquet hall, they wouldn't have hired any temporary workers at all. For Zhou Lin's great cause of climbing up the social ladder, Lan really gave him everything he wanted. Find a way to invite Lan out to meet, but not in my name, I instructed the secretary. One day later, I met Lan at a coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. She had originally made an appointment with other friends. When she saw that it was me, her delicate little face immediately tensed up, and her expression became stiff. Miss Wen, you went around to invite me out. What do you want to say? Her tone was obviously hostile. I smiled slightly, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Of course I had to go around. I raised my eyes to observe her expression. After all, I want to talk to you about the bullet comments. I have to be on guard against Zhou Lin. And Lan's body immediately tensed up. What do you mean? Although she didn't answer directly, her vigilant body language had already given me the answer. Sure enough, Zhou Lin also used the trick of bullet comments on Lan. I said with certainty in my tone, if I'm not mistaken, the reason you trust Zhou Lin so much is because of the bullet comments, right? Lan sat up straight and said seriously, Miss Wen, if you want to hold him accountable for what happened at the dinner party that day, I apologize to you on his behalf. But Zhou Lin really didn't mean to offend, he just wanted to help you and accidentally slipped his hand. You trust him so much. I lowered my eyes and stirred the cooling coffee, shaking my head meaningfully. What did those bullet comments tell you? That you're the female lead and he's the future richest man, that as long as you're willing to support his ambition to rise to the top, he'll spoil you rotten. And Lan's eyes widened in shock. You can see them too. Not only can I see them, but in the bullet comments I see, I'm the female lead. How is that possible? And Lan's pupils suddenly contracted, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. I guided her gently. You've been with him for so long. Don't you really think there's something fishy going on? And Lan fell into a brief moment of contemplation, frowning slightly as if trying hard to digest what I had said, but in just an instant, she regained her defensive expression, as if I were a villain trying to sow discord. So what? She raised her chin, her voice trembling but her back straight. I know him and I trust him, even without the bullet comments. I will firmly stand by his side. I heard the hidden meaning in her words. Do you mean that you can't see the bullet comments now? And Lan's expression flickered with a moment of panic, and she forced herself to defend. It's none of your business. This girl is really innocent. All her thoughts are written on her face, and she can't hide anything at all. Fortunately, she's so innocent, which made me confirm one thing. Zhou Lin's bullet comments can only be designated for one person to see at a time, and they can't be transferred casually. When Zhou Lin used them on me, and Lan could no longer see them, I told her, I first saw the bullet comments on the day of the dinner party. After that, haven't you seen the bullet comments again? And Lan pursed her lips and fell into thought. I continued, you don't have to rush to reply to me. I have only one request. Don't tell Zhou Lin about our meeting today. It's for your own good. If one day you also find something suspicious about him, you're welcome to come to me again. I stopped at that and got up to leave. After all, I don't know Lan well and can't trust her completely. If she tells Zhou Lin about our conversation, it will undoubtedly bring me trouble. But I can't just watch her be killed by Zhou Lin. Wait a minute. Just before the glass door closed, and Lan suddenly caught up. She seemed to want to say something but cautiously swallowed it back. Finally, she softly promised me, "Don't worry, I won't tell him." 7. Zhou Lin had a strategy. After joining the company, he didn't rush to get familiar with me. Instead, he silently built up his presence. Every day, he was the first to arrive and the last to leave, in the office late at night, often only his back, working overtime alone, was left, lonely and stubborn, like a carefully designed silent film. Of course, he wasn't completely silent. There were still bullet comments speaking for him. Female lead, look how hard he's working. In order to be worthy of you, he only sleeps for 3 hours a day and works desperately. Since you misunderstood him that night at the dinner party, he's been breathing carefully, afraid of making you angry again. Don't you feel touched by this restrained and patient love? If it were in my previous life, I might have been moved by this performance. Now I just find it ridiculous. Since he's working so hard to attract my attention, I can't let him fail completely. So, one late night while working overtime, I came to Zhou Lin's desk. "Why haven't you left yet?" Zhou Lin suddenly looked up, looking flattered. His Adam's apple rolled, his eyelashes fluttered slightly, and his expression changed within a few seconds. The bullet comments translated his mental activity for me. "Great. Female lead, you finally noticed him." The male lead is pretending to be calm on the surface, but his heart is about to explode. Who would have thought that the future richest man would actually be a pure love warrior? Zhou Lin regarded the bullet comments as his inner monologue. I raised an eyebrow, pulled up a chair, and sat down beside him. I ordered some late-night snacks. "Let's eat together." Zhou Lin pretended to be shy and asked tentatively, "Miss Wen, aren't you angry anymore?" "Angry about what?" I asked knowingly. "At the dinner party that day, I really didn't mean it. If I offended you in any way, I apologize." "I'm sorry." Zhou Lin looked extremely nervous, but through those eyes, I could see the certainty in his heart. He was betting that I had already fully believed the bullet comments. After all, the result of the cheating catch last time perfectly proved the correctness of the bullet comments. So, I went along with his intention. "I'm the one who should apologize. That day, I was really too impulsive and misunderstood you." My voice was soft and gentle, and my fingertips were restlessly rubbing the edge of the lunchbox, as if feeling embarrassed. I quickly glanced at him and then immediately lowered my head, with a thin layer of redness appearing just right on the tips of my ears. "If we don't eat now, the late-night snacks will get cold." "Okay." Zhou Lin smiled shyly, and a hint of pride flashed in his eyes. It had started to rain outside the window at some point. The raindrops meandered down the glass, blurring the light in the office in a hazy and alluring way. The ambiguity gradually spread. The bullet comments began to encourage me to throw myself into his arms. "Female lead, look, his eyes are all red. Do you know how hard he's been holding back? As long as you kiss him now, you can have all the tenderness of this future richest man." Even his breathing is trembling, with such a cute reaction. "Don't you really want something to happen?" They still want to PUA me into kissing him, in their dreams. I lowered my head, letting the flush spread from my cheeks to my neck, looking just like a girl in the first throes of love. But when Zhou Lin reached out to hand me a tissue, I coincidentally tilted my head to avoid his touch. For some plays, stopping just at the right moment is the most alluring. 8. After that late-night snack night, Zhou Lin's offensive obviously escalated. In the elevator lobby in the morning, he would coincidentally run into me. The collar of his white shirt was slightly open, revealing his well-defined collarbone. Some pleasant surprises began to appear on my desk. On Monday, there was a white tulip with morning dew. On Wednesday, it was replaced with a handwritten note and macarons. On Friday, there was a concert ticket under the keyboard. Each gift hit exactly the right spot of my preferences. Obviously he had done his homework. The most wonderful thing was the way he looked at me, when we met in the corridor. Those peach blossom eyes would light up first, and then he would restrain himself and lower his eyelashes, suppressing the surging feelings. During the lunch break, through the glass curtain wall, I could always catch the moment when he hurriedly averted his gaze. All these things made me couldn't help but sigh at his excellent acting skills. Of course, I also, as he wished, pretended to be heart-fluttering. In this life, the process of him courting me is much more difficult than in the previous life, but Zhou Lin has been persistent. I think there are probably 2 reasons for this. First, my family is wealthy enough. Among the wealthy families in this city, I'm one of the few only daughters, which makes it convenient for him to take over all my family's wealth. Second, I speculate that the target of his bullet comments can't be changed casually. and he can only designate one person at a time, otherwise, he would definitely use multiple strategies and court several wealthy girls at once. We still worked overtime until late at night. I was really seriously learning about the company's affairs and made rapid progress in a short period of time. As for Zhou Lin, besides working overtime, I'm afraid he thought more about how to win me over. Gradually, he began to send me home late at night on the pretext of safety. The atmosphere between the two of us became subtle after each journey together. Finally, on this night, after he, acting as the driver, sent me to my doorstep, he suddenly leaned over and his fingers tentatively covered the back of my hand, but we encountered an uninvited guest. "What are you two doing?" GMO walked out from the shadows of the plane trees. His black coat was stained with night dew, and he was holding a half-extinguished cigarette in his hand. The light of the street lamp poured down from above his head, outlining his tightly pursed lips sharply. "Why are you here?" I was a bit surprised. After the engagement was called off, I hadn't contacted Chimo again, but it seemed that he was specifically waiting for me. "I'm waiting for my fiancé to get off work. Is there a problem?" Chimo said matter-of-factly. "Have you lost your memory?" I said with a laugh. "We've already broken off the engagement. It's been so long. How long are you going to keep making a fuss?" Chimo irritably loosened his tie. "I told you, I was drugged that time. Besides, among the men in our circle, which one isn't chased by women? Who can stay pure? Is it really worth it just for such a trivial matter?" He suddenly softened his tone and reached out to touch my face. "Stop making trouble. The compensation has been given by my father, and I've also been scolded by the old man. You should come back. These days, I've missed you a lot." I was so angry that I laughed and was about to retort when Zhou Lin had already stepped in front of me. "How can you say such things? If you don't cherish her, there will naturally be someone who regards her as a treasure. Who cares about a man like you who's already tainted?" GMO slowly turned his head. His gaze swept over Zhou Lin's whole body as if sizing up a commodity. Finally, it fixed on that inexpensive suit, and a cold snort escaped from his nostrils. "When Luqi, is this your new lover? Something that can't be brought to the public eye?" I have to say, this sentence made me feel good to hear. Zhou Lin's face instantly turned pale, and his knuckles turned blue from gripping tightly. "Yes, my background isn't as prominent as young Master Chi's, but if Luqi were my fiancé, I'd rather break my hands and feet than let her suffer such grievances." The bullet comments joined in the commotion. "Wow, the male lead's boyfriend power is off the charts. This kind of man is the one worth relying on." Female lead, get together with the male lead quickly. If you miss him, there won't be such a good man again. I just found it ridiculous. In fact, when I first came back through time, I still had some vague hopes for Chimo. Just like in a romantic novel, when the female lead is hurt by one man, it seems that another more excellent man must appear to accompany her like a savior, as if in this way, it can prove that she's worthy of being loved. But the cruel reality tells me, placing hope in men will only bring disappointment again and again. Zhou Lin is bad, and Chimo is a scumbag. Neither of them is any good, but at this moment, these two guys are in front of me, competing to show their so-called deep affection. It's really laughable. Enough, I stopped this farce. Chimo, it's over between us. The night wind picked up the fallen leaves and swirled them around our feet. I took the initiative to hold Zhou Lin's hand. When I looked up at him, my eyes were filled with tenderness like moonlight, and I said firmly, "Zhou Lin's family background may not be comparable to the Chi family's, but don't bully a young man because he's poor. I believe he won't be an ordinary person forever." Zhou Lin's pupils suddenly contracted, and his Adam's apple rolled as he swallowed. His expression at this moment was like that of a gambler finally waiting for the moment when the dice cup was opened. That kind of shudder mixed with ecstasy and greed was transmitted from his fingertips all the way to my palm. "Luqi, do you really think so?" I smiled and looked at him. Of course, his fingers trembled, and he suddenly hugged me into his arms. I could smell the remaining cheap perfume on his suit, which fermented with the excitement of success in the night wind. GMO sneered and turned to leave. After taking 3 steps, he turned back and threw down a sentence. "You'll regret being with such a poor man." He was right. In my previous life, when I was pushed off the cliff by Zhou Lin, I really regretted it to the core, but now, I just hugged Zhou Lin back even more tightly and said firmly, "No, I believe, choosing him is the most correct decision I've ever made in my life." 9. Zhou Lin and I got together just like that. He perfectly replicated the routine from my previous life. On the surface, he silently gave to me without asking for anything in return. In reality, He used the bullet comments to exaggerate it greatly. Oh my god. The male lead didn't sleep all night just to grab a limited edition doll for the female lead. See the blisters on his hand from the burn, that's from learning to make creme brulee for the female lead. Just now, when the female lead coughed, he immediately took off his coat. He was shivering from the cold but still said he wasn't cold. What a familiar formula. He put on a show of 3 parts, and the bullet comments exaggerated it into 12 parts of deep affection. When he secretly met with Enlon in private, the bullet comments would pop up saying preparing a surprise. Even his perfunctory attitude when he stood me up could be beautified as running all over the city to buy a gift for the female lead. In my previous life, he wove a Truman's World for me with the bullet comments, making me live in a carefully designed script and thinking that I had glimpsed the secret of fate. Those floating words were like transparent silk threads, wrapping around my judgment layer by layer until I could no longer see the truth clearly. And in this life, honey, I want to take you to meet my good friend, is that okay? I rested my chin in my hand and looked at him, my eyes full of infatuation. I want everyone around me to know how lucky I am to have met such a wonderful boyfriend like you. Zhou Lin's eyes flickered. He knew very well the significance of this invitation. Being able to step into the social circle of the daughter of the Wen family meant being officially included in the social map of the top celebrities. This was much higher than the social circle that Enlon, the daughter of an upstart, could provide. Okay, I'll leave it to you to arrange. Zhou Lin pretended to be doting and ruffled my hair. I leaned into his arms, taking the opportunity, hiding the sneer at the corner of my mouth. Zhou Lin still didn't know, the friend I was going to take him to meet was exactly his old acquaintance, Enlon. 10. My friend has always heard me talk about how great my boyfriend is and has urged me many times to let her meet him in person. I took Zhou Lin's arm and walked through the carved archway of the restaurant. Before entering the private room, I suddenly leaned close to his ear and laughed softly. Come to think of it, you two already know each other. To give her a surprise, I deliberately didn't tell her that my boyfriend is you. Hearing this, Zhou Lin's body suddenly tensed up. Which friend are you talking about? As soon as the words fell, as if he had a premonition, he slowly turned his head. He was directly facing Enlan's pale face. The wine glass in her hand clattered to the ground, her pupils constricted violently, and her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Look, this is the friend I mentioned. I happily shook Zhou Lin's stiff arm. Enlan. You're familiar with her, right? The one who helped you out that day at the banquet. Zhou Lin's Adam's apple rolled a few times, and the corner of his mouth twitched into a twisted arc. You too, have you been in touch all this time? His fingertips oozed cold sweat in my palm, and his probing gaze swept back and forth between Enlan and me, as if testing the possibility of being exposed. Zhou Lin's panic at this moment confirmed my suspicion. His special ability has limitations. He can only fabricate those bullet comments to deceive us, but he can't truly have the ability to see everything and spy on our whereabouts. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reached the door of the private room without knowing that the person inside was Enlan. Actually, we weren't familiar before. I tilted my head and showed an innocent smile. Later, I heard that Enlan was your sponsor, and as we talked, we became close friends. I turned my head and affectionately took Enlan's cold hand. I also have to thank you for sponsoring Zhou Lin all those years. That's how I was able to meet such a wonderful boyfriend. Enlan stared fixedly at Zhou Lin, her lips lost all color, as if all the blood in her body had been drained, but she still asked persistently, she's your girlfriend, so who am I? I promptly changed my expression and showed a look of surprised and bewildered. What do you mean? Are you also Zhou Lin's girlfriend? Facing such a tense situation, Zhou Lin's expression was only flustered for a moment before quickly returning to normal. Enlan, I think you've misunderstood, he said in a slightly apologetic tone. You sponsored me for 6 years and helped me out of the mountain village. I'm very grateful, but I don't like you. If I caused you any misunderstandings before, I'm sorry. No, you didn't say that before. Tears welled up in Enlan's eyes. You clearly said before that. Enough, perhaps afraid that his lies would be exposed. Zhou Lin interrupted Enlan's words in a hurry and turned to me, saying, Luqi, there are some misunderstandings between Miss Enlan and me. Could you please give me some time so that I can explain it to her alone? To reassure me, the bullet comments also joined in the defense. Enlan is just a paranoid. She's morally blackmailing the male lead just because she sponsored him. The male lead feels like he's being tortured every time he meets her. He's just enduring it to repay her kindness. The male lead may be poor, but he has integrity. once he becomes the richest man, he won't have to be coerced by such a woman anymore. The female lead should trust the male lead and give him some space to deal with it. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, I had also seen similar bullet comments. At that time, Enlon heard that Zhou Lin and I were dating and came to ask for an explanation. At that time, Zhou Lin only took 20 minutes to make that stubborn girl leave with red eyes. I didn't know how Zhou Lin explained it to her, but after that, Enlon really stopped bothering me. After a while, I got the news that Enlon had died in a car accident on a winding mountain road. According to the timeline of my previous life, Enlon should still be safe now, but looking at her shaky figure at this moment, I suddenly wasn't sure anymore. Perhaps the fangs of the viper would show earlier than in my memory. Then I'll go back first, you two can talk slowly. I pretended to believe the bullet comments, obediently left, and even thoughtfully closed the door of the private room for them. About an hour later, Zhou Lin came back. There was a smile on his lips, but his eyes were as cold as ice. He reached out and ruffled my hair. It's all explained. It was all a misunderstanding before. From now on, she won't bother us anymore. Really? I looked up at him. Of course. Zhou Lin leaned down close to me. His breath brushed against my ear, and his voice was as soft as a snake hissing. Trust me, Luqi. 11. According to the trajectory of my previous life, Enlon died in a car accident a month after she came to the door. I thought that in this life, it should be around the same time, which was enough for me to prepare in advance. But I didn't expect, just a week later, I saw the report of Enlan's death in a car accident on the news. It was still that section of the winding mountain road, and it was still due to a brake failure, but the time was completely different. That section of the winding mountain road was in the suburbs. Usually, Enlan wouldn't go there. What was the reason that made her drive there alone in both her previous and present lives? The answer was obvious. It was Zhou Lin who asked her to meet at the top of the mountain, saying that he wanted to give her a surprise or an explanation. My heart sank heavily, even though I knew he was the murderer. Without evidence, everything was just empty talk. At this moment, the sound of the door lock turning woke me up. It was Zhou Lin who came back. Today, he invited me to his rental house, saying that he would cook for me and show off his skills. He was holding a paper bag with the logo of an internet-famous cake shop in his hand and smiled calmly. I queued up for 2 hours. He held the cake and smiled as he leaned towards me. Want to have a taste? I frowned and turned my face away. Zhou Lin paused for a moment and keenly sensed that my expression wasn't right. What's wrong? Who made my baby unhappy? I directly dropped a bombshell. Did you kill someone outside? Zhou Lin's pupils suddenly constricted, but he was only flustered for a moment before returning to his usual gentle and considerate appearance. Luqi, he smiled and shook his head, reaching out to touch my face. What are you talking nonsense about? I avoided his touch and pressed on. You killed Enlon, didn't you? An expression of just the right amount of shock and hurt appeared on his face. She's my sponsor. I'm too grateful to her to do such a thing. How could I? His voice suddenly choked up, as if he was deeply hurt by the sudden accusation. Who did you hear this from? It's ridiculous. My fingertips trembled as I pointed towards the air, and my lips were pale. But, the bullet comments are never wrong. Hearing this, there was finally a crack in Zhou Lin's expression. What bullet comments? I haven't told you this. In fact, since the day of the dinner party, I've been able to see a lot of floating words. At first, I thought it was someone's prank. It wasn't until after you were taken away by the police and what the bullet comments said came true that I realized I had misunderstood you. I took a deep breath, as if I couldn't hold back the trembling in my voice. Later, a lot of things happened, all of which proved that the bullet comments were true. They never lie. I took a step back, trembling all over, and my pupils constricted violently. But now, the bullet comments are telling me that you killed Enlon and you caused this car accident. Zhou Lin's Adam's apple rolled violently 3 times. I could almost see the veins bulging on his forehead as his brain was running at high speed. The next second, the bullet comments in the air suddenly changed. What? The female lead can see the bullet comments we send, but Enlon clearly died in an accident. Did the female lead see it wrong? Zhou Lin tried to muddle through by manipulating the bullet comments, but I ignored them and showed an even more terrified expression. It's so strange. Before, the font of the bullet comments I saw was black, but now it's actually turned blood red. My voice trembled, as if I had seen something extremely terrifying. The blood-red bullet comments say that you deliberately tampered with Enlan's car brakes. It's okay to drive on a flat road, but once you get to the complex winding mountain road, it will be extremely dangerous. After that, you asked Lan to meet you at the top of the mountain, saying that you wanted to give her a surprise and asked her to go alone. Before I could finish speaking, Zhou Lin's expression changed from his initial calmness to stiffness, and fine beads of sweat began to break out on his forehead. He tried his best to maintain his surface calmness, but there was an unmaskable look of panic in his eyes. "Don't believe these, it must be someone's prank," he said, pretending to be calm, but I seemed to be possessed and continued to murmur the non-existent blood-red bullet comments. The bullet comments also say that the reason you killed Lan was that you were afraid she would get in the way of you climbing up the social ladder with me. In fact, you and Lan were lovers. You were afraid that she would expose this to me, so you took drastic measures against her. I looked at him with a terrified expression and disbelief. No wonder Lan reacted that way in the restaurant last time, it turns out. Zhou Lin still didn't give up and tried to use the bullet comments to save the situation. How could that be? Zhou Lin is clearly only in love with the female lead. It's all in Lan's misunderstanding. Zhou Lin has a very upright character. He definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Whose bullet comments are spreading such rumors? This is really hurting Zhou Lin's feelings. He only has you in his heart. Zhou Lin worked hard to fabricate the bullet comments, trying to change my mind. But my performance was as if I couldn't see the bullet comments he fabricated at all. Instead, I continued to talk endlessly about the so-called blood-red bullet comments. The blood-red bullet comments say that all the black bullet comments I saw before were deliberately fabricated by you for me to see. You can control what I see, so as to gain my trust in you. My God, have I been deceived by you all this time? I covered my mouth and said in disbelief. It turns out that the reason Lan trusted you so much was also because of the bullet comments you tailored for her. As I revealed these bloody truths one by one, I finally broke through Zhou Lin's psychological defense. His originally tense body began to tremble, and all the color drained from his face. How could this be? Where did these blood-red bullet comments come from? Is the system malfunctioning? He was so anxious that he accidentally mixed up the words calling the system with the fabricated bullet comments. So, the bullet comments in front of me refreshed like crazy. System, what's going on? When Luqi doesn't seem to be able to see the bullet comments I sent with my brainwaves anymore. The bullet comments she's seeing now are blood red. Is the system out of order? When I bound Lan before, this kind of situation never occurred. I stared fixedly at these bullet comments he accidentally sent, filled with disgust, but it wasn't enough. He hadn't completely broken down yet. I suddenly let out a scream and stepped back, as if I saw extremely shocking bullet comments. So, you approached me from the beginning just to kill me and get my inheritance. Zhou Lin's body shuddered violently. No, how could I? His defense was pale and weak, and even his voice was distorted. The blood-red bullet comments told me everything. I mentioned the name of a cliff abroad, which was exactly the place where he pushed me off the cliff in my previous life. You've even chosen the location, haven't you? After we get married and my father hands over the company to you, you'll take me there and make it look like an accidental fall off the cliff. Zhou Lin's breath suddenly stopped. He stared fixedly at me. The face that always wore a gentle smile now showed a ferocious expression without any disguise for the first time. How could you possibly know? How could other bullet comments know? I haven't even taken any action yet. I sensed the danger and turned to run, but Zhou Lin grabbed me back. His palm clasped around my neck like a vice, with such great force that it almost crushed my bones. Since you already know everything, I can't let you live anymore. He no longer cared about pretending. His knuckles pressed into my carotid artery inch by inch. That's right, I killed Lan, I tampered with her car, and you're about to die at my hands too. His voice was hoarse, filled with endless coldness and madness. If only there hadn't been these blood-red bullet comments today, I could have deceived you for a few more years. I was almost successful. You were already completely devoted to me, but you had to discover the truth. To be honest with you, the bullet comments you saw before were fabricated by me. But so what? After you're dead, I can bind someone else, and I can make a comeback. In his arrogant and hysterical narration, my breathing became weaker and weaker. Just as I was about to fall into darkness, bang! The door was suddenly smashed open from the outside, and Lan rushed in with the police. When Zhou Lin saw Lan, his eyes widened in shock. You're not dead, how can you still be alive? The police officer swarmed up, controlled him, and pinned him to the ground. I was finally released and took big gulps of fresh air. Didn't you expect it? I weakly curled the corner of my mouth. Actually, there are no blood-red bullet comments at all. All of this was just to make you admit all your criminal facts yourself. I pointed with my trembling finger at the pinhole camera in the corner. That was something I secretly set up in Zhou Lin's rental house a week ago. Stop struggling. Everything you said and did just now has been recorded by the pinhole camera. Hearing this, Zhou Lin shuddered all over and slumped down like a snake whose spine had been removed. His eyes were unfocused, and his lips moved but no sound came out. The face that always wore a gentle mask now only showed the despair of a cornered man. 12, that's right. And Lan wasn't dead at all. All of this was a carefully arranged play for Zhou Lin by us. Let's go back in time to a week ago. Under the pretext of meeting a friend, I took Zhou Lin and met Lan in the restaurant. This meeting was actually a gamble between Lan and me. It was to let her see with her own eyes. When Zhou Lin had to choose between me and her, how much was that heart beautified by the bullet comments really worth? As expected, Zhou Lin chose me on the spot, although Lan's family background was not bad. Compared with the Wen family, it was still far inferior. However, he was afraid that Lan's entanglement would make all his previous efforts go to waste, so he had to appease her first. I asked Lan what exactly Zhou Lin had explained to her in private that day, and Lan told me. He just said that he had his own difficulties, and he couldn't say what those difficulties were specifically. He just asked me to trust him and that he would take responsibility for me. Do you believe him? I asked. And Lan was silent for a moment. If you hadn't come to me, I think I would have believed him. When I could see the bullet comments before, Zhou Lin told me several times that he had his difficulties but never explained the reasons. Whenever I had doubts, the bullet comments would explain it to me, and in the end, the content of the bullet comments was verified by the facts, so I felt more sorry for him and trusted him even more. She paused and then said, but if the bullet comments were really his self-directed and self-acted scheme, then I have no reason to trust him anymore. I agreed with her. No matter how eloquently Zhou Lin spoke, one thing was certain, that was when he had to choose between the two, he gave up on Lan. This was enough to prove that he wasn't as affectionate as she had imagined. Things have come to this, and I admit defeat. And Lan let out a deep sigh, full of self-mockery, but I shook my head and corrected her. And Lan, there's no winning or losing between us. Is it really considered a win to get this man? Then this kind of win is really disappointing. And Lan suddenly fell silent and lowered her head, remaining silent for a long, long time. When she raised her head again, those sad eyes had become extremely calm and determined. You're right. What kind of victory is it to not be abandoned? Making him pay the price is what matters. She looked at me with a determined gaze, like a sharp blade unsheathed. What should we do next? I told Lan that there was a high possibility that Zhou Lin would choose to kill her to silence her and eliminate the root of the trouble. She needed to install pinhole cameras within the scope of her daily activities, especially paying attention to the car's components and the brake system. At the same time, she also needed to play her role well to avoid arousing Zhou Lin's suspicion. Facts have also proved that our prediction was completely correct. When Zhou Lin tampered with Lan's car, we received the alarm immediately, although he cleverly avoided the driving recorder. The 360-degree pinhole cameras around clearly captured his criminal behavior. After that, Zhou Lin invited Lan to go up the mountain, euphemistically saying that he could answer all her previous doubts and prepare a surprise for her. In fact, in order to completely clear himself of suspicion, he didn't go up the mountain at all that day. He just estimated that Lan was almost there and then called her, lying that he had something urgent to deal with and asked Lan to turn back. In her previous life, Lan had an accident on the way down the slope, but in this life, Lan didn't go up the mountain at all. She just destroyed her car, faked the scene of the car accident, and then used false news to mislead the public's attention. Zhou Lin thought he had everything taken care of and solved his biggest worry, but he didn't know that all his actions were within our prediction. In order to make his criminal facts conclusive, I fabricated the existence of the blood-red bullet comments and revealed his sins from the previous life little by little, forcing Zhou Lin to completely break down and finally admit the criminal facts. Now, the video of Zhou Lin admitting the criminal facts himself, the surveillance video of him tampering with the car, the call recording of him inviting Lan to go up the mountain, many irrefutable evidences are all laid out on the table. His criminal facts are conclusive, and no matter how much he tries to quibble, it can't be shaken. In the end, Zhou Lin was sentenced to 20 years in prison by the court for multiple crimes, including 2 attempted intentional homicides and the destruction of transportation vehicles. 13. On the day Zhou Lin was sentenced, I personally went to the court to witness this moment. The moment his cloudy eyes saw me, they suddenly lit up, and his chapped lips opened and closed silently, according to the court's regulations. He couldn't talk to me, so he started desperately fabricating bullet comments. Talking about how good he had been to me before and how deeply he had loved me. Luchi, do you remember the cake I learned to make for you, the night you said you were cold? The coat I took off still retained your body temperature. Forgive my momentary confusion, I was just too afraid of losing you. Can you write me a letter of understanding? I will definitely work like a slave for you when I get out. There was a sickly expectation in his eyes. As if he was certain that since he hadn't succeeded yet in this life, I should be grateful to him, but I had actually experienced the destruction of my family and my own violent death in the previous life. How could I possibly forgive him, seeing that I remained expressionless all the time? Those bullet comments gradually became ferocious. Bitch, haven't I given you enough? If it weren't for me, could you have experienced the feeling of being loved? Just you wait. I still have the bullet comment system. When I conquer someone more powerful than you, I'll kill you. It was so noisy. Fortunately, the judge finally pronounced the sentence. The defendant, Zhou Lin, is convicted of the crime of intentional homicide and the crime of destroying transportation vehicles. After combining the punishments for multiple crimes, he is sentenced to 20 years in prison. The moment the judge struck the gavel, those twisted words in the air dissipated like smoke. All those curses and pleas were gone, until the familiar bullet comments floated past my eyes, and the host's mission failed, and the system binding is released. The host loses the permission to manipulate the bullet comments, and the target person will no longer be able to see the bullet comments. I glanced at Anlan beside me and happened to meet her gaze. I knew that she had heard it too. From now on, Zhou Lin can no longer use the bullet comments to deceive and manipulate anyone. We have finally completely walked out of the huge scam woven by the bullet comments. Walking out of the gate of the court, there was a long-lost, clean and clear world in front of us. There were no floating words, and there was no preset fate. It turned out that real life should be this refreshing. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The sound of Anlan's footsteps came from my side, brisk and firm. The gate of the court slowly closed behind us, and neither of us looked back. Story 2. On my best friend Fong Li's 22nd birthday, she was harassed by a drunk. As a black belt in Taekwondo, I accidentally killed the drunk while trying to protect her. However, in court, she refused to testify for me. I was sentenced to 3 years in prison for manslaughter. After being released from prison, I found that Fong Li had married my boyfriend, and they even had a daughter over 2 years old. They also plotted to marry me off to Fong Li's divorced and abusive older brother. Then, in a blink of an eye, I was back on Fong Li's 22nd birthday. Just a second ago, I had a car accident due to being in a daze. Then, when I opened my eyes, I was already back in my room. Seeing the time on my phone, I finally confirmed that I had really returned to the day of Fong Li's 22nd birthday. 3 years ago, I looked at myself in the mirror. To attend the birthday party of my best friend, whom I had known since junior high school, I had carefully dressed up. There were messages from 2 people on my phone. One was from Fong Li. She sent a location and a voice message. When I clicked it, her sweet voice came through. Honey, this is the restaurant I booked. Don't go to the wrong place, okay? The other was from my boyfriend, Lin Yanhua. He sent a message. Yuan Qing, are you ready? I'm almost downstairs at your place. I rolled my eyes in my heart. In my past life, I thought they didn't have much interaction at this time. Hearing that a best friend was like a little mother-in-law, I added some money and bought an expensive necklace for Fong Li in Lin Yanhua's name. I wanted my best friend and my boyfriend to get along well. Who knew that when I got out of prison after 3 years, their child was already over 2 years old. Calculating by time, the child was already conceived at this time. Biting back the urge to curse them out, I sent a message to Fong Li. Honey, I accidentally sprained my ankle just now. I have to go to the hospital first. I'm extremely sorry for missing your birthday. I'll definitely make it up to you later. My family was better off than Fong Li's. Over the years, she had taken a lot of advantage of me, so on the surface, she was always obedient to me. She sent a bunch of concerned voice messages. I didn't click on them. I was afraid that I would vomit when I heard her overly sweet voice. Then I sent a message to Lin Yanhua. I'm not feeling well, you go by yourself. Without waiting for his reply, I set his WeChat to do not disturb. I looked back at the gifts on the bed. The necklace was to be given in Lin Yanhua's name, and I also bought her a bag in my own name. neither of the two items was in a style I liked, so I took the two things and went to return them, too. After returning the things and walking out of the luxury store, I casually opened Moments and saw Fong Li's post. She was wearing a white princess dress, holding a large bouquet of flowers, surrounded by gifts, looking like a little princess, and my Lin Yanhua was standing next to Fong Li. He was standing, his body slightly leaning towards Fong Li. At first glance, without knowing, people might think they were a couple. Disgusting things. Fong Li and I had known each other since middle school. Her family was ordinary. When the surrounding classmates were all unkempt and didn't know how to dress up. She was slender, fair-skinned, and had a soft voice. She didn't know how many boys' hearts she had captured, but where there is love, there is also hatred. One day after school, she was blocked in an alley by several little hooligan girls. The reason was simple. The boy that the little hooligan girls had a crush on liked Fong Li. When I was a child, I was in poor health, so my parents sent me to learn Taekwondo, originally just to strengthen my body. Who knew that I had extraordinary talent in this area and had few opponents at a young age, so when I saw Fong Li being bullied, I stepped in and drove those little hooligan girls away with a few moves. Before those little hooligan girls ran away, they shouted at me, "Jiang Yuanqing, I will never let you go." I put my hands on my hips and shouted at them, "If you have the guts, come at me." My brother is Shen Tingxi from the senior high school department. I turned around and reached out to pull up Fong Li, who was crying pitifully. Since then, Fong Li and I, with completely different personalities, became close friends. Later, she also asked me why I had a different surname from my brother. I bit the straw of my yogurt, looked up at Shen Tingxi at the top of the honor roll, and didn't know how to tell her that Shen Tingxi lived in our house because his parents had both passed away. Seeing me hesitate, Fong Li gave me a playful smile. "I won't ask about the private affairs of the rich, but," she paused and stepped forward to point at Shen Tingxi's photo, "do you mind if I chase your brother?" 3. Before, I didn't understand, but after being reborn, I realized that from that time on, Fong Li seemed to be consciously trying to snatch things from me. She would borrow the clothes I just bought to wear, she would take my extracurricular books to read, she would also get to know my friends, and she even wanted to chase my brother. I was too young back then to tell good people from bad. When I knew that Fong Li wanted to chase Shen Tingxi, I even specifically went to tell Shen Tingxi. After hearing this, Shen Tingxi raised his eyes and glanced at me. "Jiang Yuanqing, where's your ID card?" I was a little confused, but I still took out my ID card from my bag. "Here it is." Shen Tingxi snorted softly. "Then please take a good look at how old you are now, at your age." Falling in love in the next 3 years is considered puppy love. Shen Tingxi was 3 years older than me. I was in the 3rd year of junior high school, and he was in the 3rd year of senior high school. He had lived in our house since he was 10. At first, I really liked to play with him. Having a good-looking brother at home was a great thing for a girl to show off. But as I grew up, I increasingly felt that Shen Tingxi was a block of wood. He was calm, sober, as cold as the autumn lake. As a teenager in his teens, he was already calm, introverted, and didn't show his emotions. My dad even praised him, saying that he would surely achieve great things in the future. But the always calm Shen Tingxi, in my past life, after I was imprisoned, his eyes were red countless times. 4. Maybe I was too much of a fool before and always followed Fong Li's will. This time, such a sucker, suddenly didn't go to her birthday. The gifts she showed off didn't look as high-end as before. So not long after she posted on Moments, she made a video call to me. I didn't answer. I looked at the time. At this point, they should have moved from the restaurant where they ate to the second venue, a KTV. In my past life, I paid for the KTV. It was already very late when we came out of the KTV. Other friends got in their cars and left one after another, and Fong Li, who was waiting for a car by the roadside, was suddenly hugged by a drunk. His hands were all over her in a vulgar way. After Lin Yanhua and I drove the car out, we saw that Fong Li's clothes were already in a mess. This place was relatively remote, and the security guards couldn't see. There were several accomplices around the drunk, making lewd laughter. Seeing my friend being bullied, I got out of the car and ran over directly. After pulling Fong Li over, the drunk still wanted to attack me. I had learned Taekwondo, so I threw him to the ground with a judo throw. When the other drunks saw this, they all surrounded me to help. It was a bit difficult for me to deal with 3 or 4 drunks, but Lin Yanhua, as if he didn't see anything, hid in the car and refused to get out for a long time. So during the entanglement, in a hurry to get away, I didn't control my strength well and kicked one of them to the ground. His backside of head hit the ground and he fainted. A passer-by called the police, and all of us were taken to the police station. Finally, we learned that the drunk had died because of a serious brain injury. My family hired the best lawyer for me, but there was no surveillance in that place, except for ourselves and those drunks. There were no other witnesses. Originally, I was just acting in self-defense, but in court, Fong Li, the good friend I had always treated sincerely, said in court, at that time, the drunk had stopped pestering me. Jiang Yuanqing misread and thought I was being bullied. Even though my family spent a lot of money, I was still sentenced to 3 years in prison. My parents' hair turned white overnight. Shen Tingxi, who was always calm and self-possessed, looked at me with red eyes. Yuan, don't be afraid, brother will be with you. 5. Later, I was locked up in prison. Fong Li came to see me. She was crying pitifully, looking so miserable, as if she was the one who had suffered a great grievance. I'm sorry, Yuan, I was so scared. She showed the same pitiful face as she had countless times after making mistakes before. You'll forgive me, right? Forgive? I tear her to pieces. I spent 3 years in prison, and it took me a full 3 years to not hate her so much, but when I got out of prison, the news I got was that my good best friend Fong Li had already married my boyfriend Lin Yanhua and even had a child over 2 years old. Hate, yes. Resent, yes. So, being reborn, I want to stand by as a bystander and watch them be torn apart by fate. I returned home and quietly waited for that moment to come. At 1:30 in the morning, I received a call from Lin Yanhua. I guessed what was going on, so I answered the phone. On the other end, Lin Yanhua was panting, and the background was a bit noisy. His tone was a bit urgent. Yuanqing, come to the police station. Something happened to Fong Li. The good show was about to begin. When I arrived, the police station was in chaos, crying, shouting, the police is scolding, and the siren outside were all mixed together. At other times, I would find this kind of background noise very annoying, but at this moment, I felt like it was the sound of nature. Under this background noise, it meant that I was completely reborn. I had completely escaped the tragedy of my past life and started my new life. I stepped on my small leather shoes, carried my small bag, walked past those people, and came to Lin Yanhua. He looked like a mess. There was a bruise on the corner of his mouth, and his clothes were torn. He was lowering his head. When he heard my footsteps and looked up, the first thing he said was, "Why didn't you go to Fong Li's birthday party today?" I paused. Why didn't I notice before that Lin Yanhua was so good at blaming others? I tilted my head and looked at him. Would it be any different if I went? In my past life, when I saw Fong Li being molested, my first reaction was to rush down to help her. And as my boyfriend, the one who cheated with Fong Li, Lin Yanhua had been hiding in the car and not getting out. Later, his explanation was that he was calling the police in the car, but in fact, the person who really called the police was a passer-by. Perhaps irritated by my words, he suddenly stood up, and the look in his eyes when he looked at me was extremely fierce. Aren't you a Taekwondo black belt? When you went out with Fong Li before, didn't you also drive away the hooligans? If I had gone this time, the one being harassed, molested, and violated would be me, then you wouldn't be sad, right? Lin Yanhua was stunned, and his arrogant aura just now subsided a lot. He looked at me in disbelief. You know, right? I smiled sweetly. What do you think? I didn't want to pay attention to Lin Yanhua anymore. I turned around and followed the policewoman to find Fong Li. She looked much worse than Lin Yanhua. Her clothes had been completely torn. The policewoman had found other clothes to cover her. She was sitting on the bed, curled up. Her exquisitely permed hair, which had cost a lot of money, was now in a mess. Her eyes were red. Because of her fair skin, any trace left on her body would be very obvious. She lowered her head and shed tears, looking extremely pitiful. The policewoman explained to me that after Fong Li and the others came out of the KTV, they met the drunks molested Fong Li. Lin Yanhua called the police and the security guards after Fong Li was dragged into the alley, and then went to help. Lin Yanhua directly took a brick and hit the man on the head. Now that drunk was still in the ICU of the hospital, and his life was hanging by a thread. After the policewoman finished speaking, Fong Li looked up at me, and her tone was also very weak. Yuanqing. But I didn't step forward to hug her as before. Instead, I stood where I was. She looked at me, a little confused. The policewoman noticed the strange atmosphere and thought we had something to say, so she quietly backed out. Why are you standing so far away? Fong Li asked me. My expression was indifferent. I just came to take a look. I can't help much. After making sure you're okay, I'm going home. It's already very late. I put it as euphemistically as possible. I just came to watch the joke. Fong Li's face changed. She was in disbelief and a little bit blameful. Yuan Qing, what do you mean? Aren't we friends? I'm already like this. Why are you so cold-hearted? I never thought you would be such a person. I never thought you would be such a person either. I interrupted her and said directly, I treated you as a friend. What about you? Have you ever treated me as a real friend? Fong Li was stunned. You? What do you mean, literally? I didn't want to entangle with them too much, I said. I just came to watch their jokes. In my past life, this night was my nightmare. After accidentally pushing that person down, my parents rushed over. My mother, who had been elegant for most of her life, collapsed on the ground and cried bitterly when she heard that I might be imprisoned. Both my parents' hair turned white overnight. I was controlled by the police, and my parents were crying bitterly outside, but Fong Li, whom I had helped, had been standing in the corner and didn't even give my parents a word of comfort. Lin Yanhua had been standing beside Fong Li. After symbolically comforting my parents a few words, he left with Fong Li. Now that I think about it, they probably didn't go back to school that night but went to a hotel, and I became the biggest victim. And on this night after being reborn, I looked at the group chat with Shen Tingxi, my parents, and me on my phone, before going to bed. My parents posted photos of them having dinner at a restaurant, with happiness all over their faces. In this life, I will firmly hold on to my happiness. When I turned around and walked out of the police station, Fong Li and Lin Yanhua's parents had just arrived. I passed by them. They all looked back at me. Maybe they wanted to say something to me, but they were urged by the police and followed the police in. I stood outside the police station and looked back at the busy police station. The harm I suffered in my past life, in this life, I will make them pay back 1,000 times. The news that Fong Li was dragged into the alley by the drunk spread throughout the whole school that night. The next day when I went to class, I heard several girls next to me talking about something. I was curious and turned my head. What are you looking at? Those girls looked at each other and didn't dare to speak. I thought for a while, is it about Fong Li? Those girls' faces changed, and they nodded. One of the girls who had a good relationship with me took her phone and sat next to me. Yuan Qing, I know you have a good relationship with Fong Li. You may be angry when you see this video, so we didn't dare to show it to you. What video? The girl held up her phone for me to see. The video was secretly taken from upstairs. It was the KTV from last night. Fong Li was dragged into the alley by those drunks, and her white princess dress was torn and thrown out. The video was a bit blurry, and it was not clear what exactly happened, but the girls' screams and the drunks' jeering laughter in the video were enough to show what had happened. After watching it, I frowned slightly. 9. Although I did want to take revenge on Fong Li and Lin Yanhua, I really hated the person who posted the video of a girl being violated. Seeing my expression turn sour, the girl immediately paused the video. We don't know who posted it either. It was spread everywhere last night. Yesterday was Fong Li's birthday. You should have been there, right? Everyone knew that I had a close relationship with Fong Li. Fong Li was the art department's department flower, popular all over the school with her perfect appearance. Many rich second-generation students were pursuing her, and she changed boyfriends quite frequently. Moreover, due to her arrogant personality, she had already offended many people. Now that this video came out, those who had disliked her on weekdays all started to pile on the blame. I lowered my eyes and said, I wasn't there. I don't really know what happened. Although I was disgusted by the person who spread the video of a girl being violated, I always remembered what had happened to me because of Fong Li in my past life. I would never forgive her. After thinking for a while, I said to those girls, in the future, you don't have to consider me when it comes to Fong Li's matters. I have nothing to do with her now. The sudden break-up of former good friends was a story worth them gossiping about for a long time. On that day, neither Lin Yanhua nor Fong Li came to school. After sending Lin Yanhua a break-up text message, I immediately blocked both of their WeChat accounts. Based on my understanding of them, I knew they would come to pester me later. After all, I had been so naive all these years and had given them so many benefits. After finishing the afternoon classes, I went home. In my past life, I was in prison for 3 years. My parents cried every day, and our family business plummeted. Everything was supported by Shen Tingxi. Even before coming back, I had sent them a message saying that I would come back for dinner tonight, but when I arrived at the door, I was still nervous. After giving myself enough mental preparation, I pressed the doorbell. Our house was a large riverside flat. As soon as the door opened, the nanny aunt was busy arranging the dishes. My father was sitting in the living room watching the news. My mother opened the door and saw me, her eyes curving into a smile. Our Yuan is back. I thought I had done enough mental preparation and wouldn't show my emotions. But when I saw such a warm scene and my gentle-eyed mother standing in front of me, I still couldn't hold back. And big teardrops fell. As soon as my mother saw me crying, she immediately panicked. "Oh, what's wrong? Did you get bullied at school?" In their eyes, I had just been at school for 2 days and then came back, but in my eyes, it was the first time in a full 3 years that I felt the warmth of home again. At the dinner table, my parents kept putting food in my bowl. While chatting, my parents suddenly talked about Shintingsi. "By the way, your brother is coming back soon." My hand holding the chopsticks paused. After college, Shintingsi chose to study abroad and started a company with his foreign classmates. According to my father, it was doing quite well. In my past life, he was probably coming back around this time, but because of my incident, he rushed back regardless of everything and only managed to catch up with my sentencing in court, this time, since I didn't have an accident. According to the plan, he was probably going to come back within half a month. In fact, in my past life, the relationship between me and Shintingsi was a bit delicate. I was pursued by Lin Yanhua when I was a sophomore and got together with him. Once, we were spotted by Shintingsi while shopping on the street. He pulled me aside with a straight face and said that I was not allowed to fall in love. I just thought he was trying to persuade me in an elder-like way, and I was a bit unhappy. "Before you said that falling in love before the age of 18 was puppy love, but now I'm almost 20. Why are you meddling in my affairs? I'm your brother, you're not my real brother." Because of this quarrel, I started to avoid him. He was 3 years older than me and had already received an admission notice from a foreign university at that time. He was so busy every day that he went out early and came back late. Even if we happened to meet by chance, I would angrily avoid him. Until he really went abroad, I was still angry with him because he didn't allow me to be with Lin Yanhua, who knew that the next time we met, I was about to go to prison. Thinking of how he had run around for me in my past life, the always clean and hygienic him became unshaven, and his beautiful peach blossom eyes were full of bloodshot. He was not my real brother, but he was better than a real brother. So after dinner, when I returned to my room, I took out my phone. The chat record between me and him stopped more than 2 years ago. When he went abroad, I took out my phone, thinking about what kind of conciliatory message to send him to apologize. As a result, I accidentally touched the voice call button. My hand shook, and the phone fell to the ground. I hurriedly picked it up and found that the other side had already answered the call. A clear and cold male voice came through. "Hello." I froze. Not daring to speak, Shintingsi called again. Jiang Yuanqing. Hearing the familiar voice, my nose twitched. When I spoke again, my voice had changed. "I'm here." He seemed to have heard the sobbing in my voice, and his tone was no longer as cold as before, like the calm lake finally rippling. "What's wrong? What happened?" I sniffed and looked at the photo of me and him on the desk when we were young. I was looking at the camera, and the little boy was looking at me. So, I spoke. Across the entire Pacific Ocean and several time zones, conveying the most sincere words in my heart. "Shintingsi, I miss you." After I said that, I was so ashamed that I threw the phone aside. Shintingsi's parents and my parents were family friends. When my parents' business failed, all the relatives and friends around closed their doors and refused to lend a hand. It was Shintingsi's parents who helped my parents. When Shintingsi was 10 years old, his parents' business had problems, and they died in a car accident. It was my parents who rushed to the Shin family's villa and brought Shintingsi back from those debt collectors. When he first came to our house, Shintingsi always refused to talk and eat. My parents couldn't do anything about him. It was I who kept pestering and coaxing him that he was willing to speak. However, the first sentence he said to me was, "Can you be quiet?" When I was a child, I called him brother. When I grew up and knew that he didn't have the same parents as me, I would call him brother when I was happy and call him by his full name when I was unhappy. During puberty, when everyone was attracted to the male classmates in school, I shamefully blushed for Shintingsi, but after realizing it, I simply gave myself a slap. "Jiang Yuanqing, have you no shame? He lives in your house because he has no choice. How could you have such improper thoughts about him?" Later, after learning biology, I also understood that it was normal to have an interest in the opposite sex during puberty. I slowly let go of it and would also suddenly praise him after staring at him. Brother, you're so good looking. In short, if it weren't for Lin Yanhua, the relationship between me and Shen Tingxi would always have been good. For several days in a row, Feng Li and Lin Yanhua didn't come to school, but their affairs had spread far and wide. Feng Li had always been ostentatious in her actions. Now that she had encountered these things, those who had been bullied by her before began to gloat. When I walked into the classroom, everyone was whispering. When I entered, everyone exchanged glances and then gradually quieted down. After I sat down, a boy who usually had a good relationship with me in the front row turned around and looked at me. Yuan Qing, I heard that you and Feng Li had a falling out. I gave a hum. He asked again, because of what? I couldn't explain to them how badly I had been hurt by Feng Li in my past life. I was still hesitating when the girl next to me said, what else could it be? Because she saw Feng Li's true colors. With this sentence, it was like opening everyone's chatterbox. Everyone spoke one after another, sharing what they had seen and heard about Feng Li. I live in the same dormitory as Yuan Qing, so I had the most say. Every time she had a date, she would come to take Yuan Qing's clothes and bags, but I never saw her return them. Either the ones she returned smelled of hot pot or had stains. It's not just clothes and bags, there are also skin care products. Yuan Qing is so kind. Every time she buys skin care products, she buys 2 sets. She takes them for granted, but I never saw her buy anything for Yuan Qing. Feng Li, I thought she was very scheming from the first time I saw her. On the surface, she smiles and is gentle to everyone, but who knows what she's really like behind the scenes. There's another thing, I don't know if you've noticed, Feng Li always likes to snatch things from others. Everyone spoke one after another, bringing up all the little things that had made me feel a bit uncomfortable about Feng Li over the years. People are like this, the little details that were not noticed before would all be triggered at a certain point. Since we met in junior high school, I had always regarded Feng Li as a weak person who needed help and took good care of her. Her family was of ordinary means, but she was a bit vain, so, whenever I bought skin care products for myself, I would also buy a set for her. When we went shopping, I always paid the bill. I had gotten used to it over the years, but at this moment, when everyone said it out, I realized the inequality in this relationship. In this friendship between me and Feng Li, I had always been giving, while Feng Li had always been taking. A small favor creates indebtedness, a great favor breeds resentment. Feng Li, at some point, had developed hatred towards me and started trying to snatch my things. At first, after she said she wanted to pursue Shen Tingxi but failed, she changed her words and said she also hoped to have such a brother. So on weekends, I would bring her home to play. Shen Tingxi was reading in the study, and she would go to disturb him many times. She would call Shen Tingxi brother all the time. At that time, Shen Tingxi had just finished the college entrance examination and was previewing the content of his college major at home. When he heard Feng Li call him like that, he looked up coldly. I remember I only have one sister. Then, regardless of Feng Li, who was standing there awkwardly, he directly carried his school bag and went out. At that time, I still accused Shen Tingxi of being impolite and cold. Now that I think about it, Shen Tingxi could tell a scheming girl from a young age. 5 days after the incident, I ran into Lin Yanhua at the dormitory entrance. He was wearing a baseball cap and a mask. It seemed that he knew he was in the spotlight recently. At first, I didn't notice. It was not until I walked in front of him that he suddenly grabbed my arm, and I was startled. He made a shoe gesture. It's me. I twitched the corner of my mouth. It's because it's you that I screamed. Someone passed by and glanced at us. Lin Yanhua quickly lowered his head, afraid of being recognized. Can we find a place with fewer people? After the lessons of my past life, I was now afraid that he would take me to a deserted place and hit me on the head. I chuckled twice and took his hand away. No need. Before blocking him, I was afraid he wouldn't understand what I meant, so I had sent him a message saying that I wanted to break up with him. I thought he could guess what was going on, and I was too lazy to be so explicit, but I never expected that he would still have the nerve to come to me. Seeing that I was about to leave, he grabbed me again. Yuan Qing, you can't just say break up and that's it. I know it was wrong of me and Feng Li to do that, but you can't completely blame me. At that time, you and I were arguing, and Feng Li was always chatting with me, so I ended up like that. Now that I'm in trouble, you can't just ignore me. Sure enough, after a man cheats, his first reaction is not to think that he is wrong but to find reasons from others. I was so angry that I laughed instead. I turned around and looked at him with disgust. Lin Yanhua. Why didn't I notice before that you were so shameless? I struggled to get away, but I didn't expect Lin Yanhua to throw caution to the wind and directly pull me out. Many people around were looking, but no one came forward to help. Just as I was about to use my taekwondo skills, a tall and slender figure walked over from the side. He held my hand and then clamped Lin Yanhua's wrist. With a light squeeze, Lin Yanhua let go of my wrist in pain. He protected me behind him. When I looked up, I saw his profile. It was Shen Tingxi. He stared fixedly at Lin Yanhua. I warned you more than 2 years ago not to get close to her, right? Shen Tingxi's aura was so strong that, coupled with the pointing and whispering of the people around, Lin Yanhua could only run away like a coward. Shen Tingxi turned around and met my upward-looking gaze. These days, the weather had turned cooler. He was wearing a long black windbreaker and looked extremely handsome. I was still immersed in his handsomeness when, the next second, he tapped my forehead with his knuckles. Is falling in love fun? I covered my forehead and glared at him. This Shen Tingxi was really vindictive. Shen Tingxi said he would take me home for dinner. I followed him into the car and found that the driver was his high school classmate. They often took me with them when they had gatherings before. As soon as his classmate saw me, he winked and said, "Oh, Yuan Qing, you've become so beautiful now. No wonder someone, just getting off the plane without going home, rushed to pick you up. If I had such a beautiful sister, I would also fly here to pick you up." Before he finished speaking, he was hit by a pillow thrown by Shen Tingxi. After going through the events of my past life, I was extremely happy to meet him this time. Both of us were sitting in the back seat. I turned around and looked at him. "Didn't Mom and Dad say you wouldn't be back for a few more days? Why are you back today?" Before Shen Tingxi could speak, the classmate driving the car was shaking with suppressed laughter. Shen Tingxi adjusted his sitting position a bit uncomfortably and said, "Didn't you say to let me come back early?" When did I ask him to come back early? That day, I clearly said that I missed him. I suddenly paused. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years. The Shen Tingxi in front of me was the Shen Tingxi I knew, but he also had a different feeling. Outside the car window was the busy traffic, and inside the car was his side face looking ahead. In the quiet and enclosed space, my heart suddenly started beating faster. I silently turned back and pretended to play with my phone, but on my phone, I searched, "After puberty, will you still have a strong and unprovoked interest in the opposite sex?" The family was reunited. I looked at this scene and my eyes turned slightly red, but I didn't want Shen Tingxi to see it and misunderstand. After dinner, when I returned to my room, he knocked on my door. After getting my consent, he walked in. After looking me up and down for a while, he said, "Are you still sad because of breaking up with that jerk?" I was sitting on the bay window, and Shen Tingxi was sitting at my desk. Our eyes met, and my heart started beating fast again for some reason, so I averted my eyes. "No," but Shen Tingxi stared at me intently. "You don't dare to look at me. Are you guilty?" Shen Tingxi seemed a bit angry. "What's so good about him? If you break up, you break up. Don't fall in love in the future either. Men are all no good." I muttered, "You're a man too." Shen Tingxi paused. "I'm different." Lin Yanhua found me again through a mutual friend later. I directly posted a moments. "I have broken up with Lin Yanhua. If anyone comes to be a peacemaker, don't blame me for blocking you as a friend too." After this moments, the world became quiet. Regarding Feng Li's incident, Feng Li was the victim, but public opinion was terrifying. Everyone was spreading the rumor that Feng Li had been raped by those drunks. Just when the rumors were in full swing, a person who had asked for sick leave to see a doctor posted a moments, saying that they saw Feng Li having an examination in the obstetrics department at the hospital. The photo released was indeed of Feng Li standing outside the obstetrics consultation room alone. This moments was like solidifying the rumor that she had been raped. The once high and mighty department flower goddess had now become a rat that everyone hated. As for Lin Yanhua, the drunk he had hit with a brick was said to have become a vegetable. Lin Yanhua's parents found a lawyer for him, saying it was self-defense. But at this critical moment, someone released another video. It was Lin Yanhua hitting that drunk with a brick, after the drunk fell unconscious, and then he took the brick and hit him several more times. Once the video came out, it was no longer self-defense. Eventually, Lin Yanhua was sentenced to pay a large sum of compensation to the drunk and also had to serve 3 years in prison. The hardships I endured in my past life had all become his retribution. 18. A full month after this incident, Feng Li returned to school. Ours was a key university. And the graduation certificate held high value. Graduation was approaching, and I guessed that Fang Li couldn't afford to drop out. But when she returned to school, what greeted her were all kinds of rumors. One day when I was having lunch in the cafeteria, I saw her sitting alone. People around were whispering, and she seemed itched to bury her face in the plate. The same situation had happened in high school. Some people said that Fang Li was dating a small-time hooligan from another school. And everyone isolated her. During the free group selection period in PE class, no one chose her. At that time, I shattered the rumors and firmly took her hand, but at this moment, I just wanted to watch her get her comeuppance from a distance. Perhaps feeling that some people were going too far, Fang Li suddenly lost control. She stood up and threw the dinner plate on the ground, then cried out, "I wasn't raped by those drunks. They didn't touch me," a boy heckled. "Then what were you doing in the obstetrics department, going there to have a hemorrhoid removed?" Everyone burst into laughter. Fang Li screamed, "The child is Lin Yanhua's, not that drunk's. I wasn't raped." As soon as these words came out, after a moment of silence, there were successive exclamations of shock. Then, those who knew about my relationship with Lin Yanhua all silently cast pitying glances at me. The corners of my mouth twitched. Having an ex-boyfriend was making me feel like I had a stain. Even the girl sitting across from me silently put the drumstick in her bowl into mine. "Eat more, you've been through a lot." 19. Later, Fang Li came to see me once, asking to borrow money for an abortion. She still had that pitiful look, with red eyes, showing up at the entrance of my community. Seeing me carrying fruits from afar, she ran over to help me carry them. I turned around and dodged. "Just say what you have to say." She didn't beat around the bush. Yuan, I know that what I did with Lin Yanhua was really sorry to you, but can you forgive me this time? I'll never snatch your things again. My parents found out that I'm pregnant and think it's shameful. They won't let me go home and won't give me money for the operation. Now I can only turn to you." The more I listened, the more something seemed off. "So you mean that my friend got pregnant with my boyfriend's child? And I'm supposed to pay for the abortion?" She froze, but the next second, her eyes turned red again. Yuan, I'm really sorry. I'm begging you. Just help me this one time." "No, thanks. And there's one more thing." I took out a piece of paper from my pocket and handed it to her. "These are the things you took from me over the years. I hope you can return them intact. If you can't, then I'll have to sue you." On it were items ranging from a few thousand yuan coat to a tens of thousands yuan bag that Shen Tingxi had bought for me. She said she would borrow them for a while but never returned them. Added up little by little, it was also more than 100,000 yuan. Fang Li's family was poor. Her parents were both street vendors. Lin Yanhua's family was well off. Before, she had probably made Lin Yanhua spend a lot of money on her by using her body, but now that Lin Yanhua was in prison, there was no one to clean up her mess. Fang Li took the paper and looked at it, then looked at me in disbelief. "Jiang Yuanqing, do you really have to be so ruthless?" I didn't know how to tell her that I was reborn, but I wanted to tell her in another way. I looked at her and smiled. "You know what? I had a dream. In the dream, I went to your birthday party. I was the one who injured the drunk, and then you refused to testify for me in court. I went to prison for 3 years, and you got married to Lin Yanhua and even gave birth to this child." Hearing this, Fang Li's face changed, but she forced herself to remain calm. "How is that possible? How could I possibly refuse to testify for you? After knowing each other for so many years, I knew her well. During these days, she and Lin Yanhua must have also thought about what would happen if I had gone to her birthday party and if I was the one who had injured the drunk. Since she didn't admit it, I didn't want to entangle further. I picked up my things and turned around. "You have a week to return them, otherwise, I'll start the lawsuit." After saying that, I ignored her pitiful pleas and turned to enter the community. Who would have thought that just a few steps away, the fruit bag in my hand was taken away? Thinking it was Fang Li, I turned around and made a taekwondo move, but the other person bent down and directly carried me on his shoulder. Only then did I recognize that it was Shen Tingxi. He was carrying me on one shoulder and holding the fruits in the other hand, looking in a very good mood. "Why are you suddenly so sensible? Weren't you saying you wanted to be best friends with her for a lifetime before?" Presumably, Shen Tingxi had heard everything just now, so I simply confessed. "It's because of that dream." "What else did you dream about?" "I dreamed that Mom and Dad cried so sadly because I went to prison. And, I also dreamed about you." "I dreamed that you cried so sadly too." Shen Tingxi's steps paused. He put me down, under the dim and ambiguous street lamplight. Our eyes met. So, you said you missed me that day because of this dream. Yes, not for any other reason. Perhaps the night breeze was too ambiguous, or perhaps his eyes were too gentle. I actually sensed something else. He had returned early because of my "I miss you." After getting off the plane, he didn't even go home but went straight to my school with his luggage, his classmates snickering, my eye dodging when I looked at him after puberty, perhaps because of experiencing the life and death separation in my past life. My courage suddenly grew at this moment. "Shintingsi, do you think Mom and Dad will break my legs if I say I want to chase you?" Jiang Yuanqing. He suddenly became very serious. "Who told you to say such things?" I was frightened by his seriousness and looked at him cautiously. "Why are you suddenly so serious?" "I just suddenly realized that I've liked you a bit all these years, but I always thought you were my brother, so I didn't have such thoughts. If you think it's impossible, then I just won't like you. Why are you so fierce?" But he said, "You can't just like me a little. You have to like me very much. Now we get along like family, but if we get together and then break up because you don't like me anymore, we will not only lose a lover but also our best family. So, you have to like me very much, like him very much." Seeing me hesitate, he reached out and poked my forehead. "I'll give you time to think it over. If you're sure, I'll talk to Mom and Dad." 20. At night, while my parents were asleep, I secretly slipped into Shintingsi's room. He was still sitting in front of the computer working. I directly sat on his bed. "I want to ask you some things." Shintingsi was facing the computer, typing away. "What things?" "When you were in your senior year of high school, what happened to that senior who gave me a love letter to give to you? Later, what happened between you two?" I still remembered that at that time, I had some improper thoughts about Shintingsi, but everyone regarded me as his real sister, and many seniors even gave me gifts to ask me to pass on their love letters. The one I remembered most was the high school beauty. As an art student, she had long curly hair and was as beautiful as a princess. Standing next to her, Fongli looked like a servant. I remembered it clearly, but Shintingsi looked at me blankly. "Who? That school beauty, with long curly hair, as beautiful as a mixed-race girl? Don't remember." Me. I felt a bit secretly happy, but I still waved my fist at him. "If I find out you're lying to me, you're in big trouble." After a while, I asked again, "Then when did you start liking me?" "I gradually liked you," he said. "By the time I realized it, I already liked you very much." I was quite satisfied with Shintingsi's answer. I was still lingering in his room when Shintingsi suddenly said, "I advise you to go back quickly. Before, when I regarded you as my sister, it didn't matter how you slept on my bed, but now that you said you like me, there are differences between men and women." I pouted. And at the door, I made a face at him. Hypocrite. 21. When the specified time came, Fongli failed to return the things to me as promised. I had expected this. She was so vain that the valuable things she took from me were probably all resold by her. She came to plead with me pitifully, but I always stuck to my principles. I spent some money to find a lawyer and directly sued her. Another half-month passed, and Fongli actually paid back the money. I was wondering about this when I heard my classmates gossiping. It was said that Fongli had found a rich boyfriend. It was heard that he was quite old, with a beer belly and a receding hairline, and he even had a wife, but he didn't mind that Fongli had someone else's child in her belly and even paid for her abortion, so Fongli became a mistress. In our senior year, everyone was gradually going for internships, and I also moved out of the dormitory. The company that Shintingsi founded with his friends was getting bigger and bigger. He directly rented a villa outside and rarely went home. But when I moved out of the dormitory, he still came to pick me up by car, sitting in the passenger seat of his car. In late autumn, the ginkgo leaves on the road were spread out in a golden carpet. I turned around and held Shintingsi's hand. "Shintingsi, I've decided. I like you very much and want to be with you for a long time." He was startled at first, and then he smiled at me. "Okay, as for the hurdle of our parents, I believed that Shintingsi could solve it for me. In my past life, I was in a hurry and didn't notice that there was an extremely good person by my side who had always loved me. In this life, I will never let go of his hand again."